of the day. So Russia, China, Myanmar, Ukraine, Ethiopia, the Sahel, Syria. It's not just the G7, it's also some guests, the foreign ministers from India, South Africa, South Korea. The EU foreign policy chief is going to be there. The foreign minister of Brunei is there because they are currently in charge of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So all of them talking together, saying what can they better do to defend open societies against the threat from more authoritarian nations.
The BBC's James Landale. The EU's drug regulator reviewing the efficacy and safety of China's Sinovac COVID vaccine. Denmark, meanwhile, removing the Johnson & Johnson vaccine from use over concerns about rare but potentially dangerous blood clots. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. A new study says a majority of Americans are in agreement that the government should help people age in their own homes and not in institutional settings.
According to the AP Center for Public Affairs research findings, 42% of Republicans favor a government long-term care insurance program for all Americans, compared with 78% of Democrats. Overall, 60% of the public supports the idea. There is a deep desire among Americans to maintain their independence as they get older. Many say the feeling that you are still taking care of yourself is very important. The poll found 88% of Americans would prefer to get long-term care services as they age at home with their loved ones. I'm Bill Alexander in Washington.
Stock futures bouncing around a bit this morning. Right now, Dow futures up 17 points, while the NASDAQ futures are down 40 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
We are 7 minutes past the top of the hour. That's 7 minutes past 7 a.m. here on the East Coast, Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. Well, as our transmitter gets repaired today, what a frustrating last 24, 36 hours, no doubt, thanks to our engineers at work, our buddy TK Turbo, and a longtime friend of mine, a former employer of mine. Our buddy Paul Knight is the be-all and end-all when it comes to engineering in the radio world, and I've been in contact with him over the last 24 hours, and it looks like there were some components to our transmitter at the 106.7 FM signal that has knocked us down and out for the count. With that being said, Paul has alerted me that the components that need to be repaired, the replacement pieces are on the way, and we should be up and running through our terrestrial radio signal at 106.7 FM at some point this afternoon. So I get it. Fielding phone calls, emails, text messages pretty much all day Monday towards the back end of Sunday. The frustration is felt across the board, and the worst thing for us is the inability to deliver on a day-to-day basis. And a reminder here this morning as we're knocked out across the Cape Fear region while our transmitter is repaired. There are many ways to listen to us on a daily basis, and that's the best part of what we do, which is why, of course, we've been trying to train you puppies out there to find us throughout the various platforms that are available to you on a day-to-day basis. Of course, as always, 106.7 FM is a way in which you can find us day-to-day here locally across the radio dial. But there are additional sources in which you can pick up the most listened to, entertaining, and informative conversation across southeastern North Carolina, which is why each time we come in from the top of the hour, I highlight all of those various forms in which you can find us at, and that is through, of course, our website at bigtalkerfm.com. Our Listen Live tab is right there in the middle of our homepage at bigtalkerfm.com. On the digital way of life, you can find us by subscribing to our new YouTube page. We're up and running this morning, a video portion of the program on Facebook, and our mobile app is also available to you, recently updated. You can find us at Big Talker 106.7 FM through your Apple iStore for your iPhone and the Google Play Store for your Android. So with that said, no doubt, a frustrating day. I see already we've had probably about 15 missed calls over the last couple of hours as we got the morning underway and spilling in from last night as well. So I feel you. Don't get me wrong. The frustration is felt, again, across the board and through every bowel of this independently owned small business. So the equipment should be replaced today at our transmitter site. And again, we always enjoy the phone calls, the text messages, the emails, and that was pretty much my job yesterday, playing the role of customer service. And I might as well just put it on repeat, meaning the various ways that you can listen to us day to day. And that was kind of the best part of yesterday, being reassured that there are many of you out there concerned with where we have been for the last 24, 36 hours. In fact, in addition to all the calls, texts, and emails that we've received from various listeners across the region, many personal friends of mine and others who, in some cases, I haven't heard from in, months and months on end, have reached out to me to make sure we're okay. In fact, a dude I know that I live by in around my neighborhood who I haven't seen forever, he actually, yesterday afternoon, as I was kicking the soccer ball around with Sophia, he buzzed by my house and saw me out in the front yard, and he actually stopped by to see if I was okay. That's big time right there, to have a guy that I haven't seen in a while. We're friendly with one another, and he just wanted to roll by my house because he knows where I live to make sure that I was on the up and up. And I want to give that guy a big tip of the cap here this morning for making sure that yours truly was safe and sound. So with that said, there's no one that hates the inability to deliver the way we want to on a day-to-day basis than the person you listen to each and every morning. With that said, again, there are various ways to listen, and I hope you find us through those platforms over the course of the next 3 hours here until 10 o'clock, until our engineer gets the transmitter site back up and running. A couple missing components to the site are on the way, and they are going to be repaired as we move through lunchtime. At least that's what I've been told here over the next 4 or 5 hours. So stick with us as this small, independently owned operation continues to work through the trials, the tribulations, the hurdles, and the mountains that we also often have to climb in order to keep this program up and running and this very popular format through the News Talk way of life on air for you to listen to for a long, long time. And I say that because this week is National Small Business Week, and we all know how the pandemic, the ridiculous draconian government lockdowns have hampered the ability for people to do business. To me, the fact that the government labeled hundreds of thousands of businesses and workers, meaning human beings, the fact that the government labeled hundreds of thousands of businesses and workers, labeled you as non-essential, me included in some instances, I still to this day have a hard time grasping how all of this has played out. And here we are now, of course, with the new administration at the top. The response, frankly, it's clear. The government, the Harris-Biden administration, at this point, they are hell-bent on creating another class of dependency in our society, and that is you and me, the middle class. It's laughable that these people are highlighting the same small businesses this week through National Small Business Week. They're highlighting these folks and at the same time sticking it to the same small business owners and those who are employed by those businesses through the various shutdowns that we see across much of the country, through an effort to raise taxes. I don't know if you've noticed, but the cost of doing business is skyrocketing for one reason or the other, whether it be costs for material, transportation, fuel costs. We've got ideas out there that would raise the tax on businesses. But yes, this week is National Small Business Week, the engine of the U.S. economy. COVID did not shut down more than 40% of small businesses permanently. That was the government. And I think we all need to be reminded that here this morning as we highlight National Small Business Week. You can't support small business and simultaneously be in favor of tax increases. You can't be in favor of proposals like the PRO Act, this piece of legislation that is being pitched by Democrats and touted by the Harris-Biden administration. Grandpa Joe himself highlighted this proposal during his speech to joint members of Congress last week. The PRO Act will kill side hustles like mine. This bill will kill one-person businesses. And supposedly, these are the same people that are in support of you, the everyday American. The everyday American who has been pleading with the government to allow us to reopen for months. These are the same people who levy concerns to those who make the rules. And frankly, the same people you ignore while making the rules. But hey, it's Small Business Week. And the government is here to help. As Democrats continue to push free everything, this, that, and the other, giving the message that there's no value in your hard work. And that's not something I can get behind. Our phone number is 910-299-7535. Caller, you're with us. Good morning. I hope all is well.
Essential Jersey Mike checking in.
Yes, I'm glad that you are out and about on your way to work here this morning, Jersey Mike.
You know, you talk about small business. When I had my plumbing business, try to get a loan. And, the Dems always say that they're for small business. Well, be a small business and go to a bank and try to get a loan.
Yeah, good luck at this point, given that, you have to jump through all sorts of bells and whistles to extend a line of credit, in this country. Yet the government, no problem. Let's just, force feed all sorts of bells and whistles. And let's support, American families and businesses because it makes it sound nice. And, I mean, how could you be opposed to something like that?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Hey, are you going to be boosting the wattage by chance with your new equipment?
No, we've got Jersey Mike. If you got around $60,000, we'd be happy to investigate that for you. But at this point, where we're at, this repair is costly, and there are a few missing pieces to the flux capaculator that we need put in place first before we go seek out other endeavors to improve the quality of our signal and way of life these days. But
well,
I'm happy. I'm happy to start a GoFundMe if you want to drop in the first $60,000 to make it happen.
Well, I'll text you Mrs. Jersey Mike's phone number. She's the financial end of the operation, and you'll have to speak with her.
Well, I would be happy to make that pitch to her, and I know where you guys live down there in Brunswick County. I'm sure you're not hurting too bad given the line of work that you're in. So I'd be happy to make that pitch to Mrs. Jersey Mike if she's up to it. I'll even buy her a cup of coffee.
Well, she supplies food, so we can, once you get the loan, we'll feed you.
Well, no doubt about it. And, as starving members of the media, anytime you have put away and put down, some type of subsistence in front of me, it goes rather quickly, given that the hounds of the media are quick to jump on free food. So please, And I know, Jersey Mike, you've delivered free food to me here prior to our call here this morning, and that lasagna still resonates in my taste buds. So I'm awaiting another Sunday afternoon where you can deliver that. I don't know, maybe some spaghetti and meatballs, or how about a chicken parm? I'm down for that.
Well, the Knights of Columbus, we're doing 200 chicken dinners this month, so I'll save you a chicken dinner and drop it by.
Well, make sure you keep me posted on that. So, me, as I travel back and forth from here in Conway, I'd be happy to stop by and support the Knights and what you do down there in Charlotte over at, St. Brendan's, right?
Yep, and we got our big golf tournament coming up on the 27th. I don't play golf, so I just ride around the cart and make sure nobody has a stroke.
There you are again, making sure that everyone is A-OK. I mean, thank you so much for the support, Jersey Mike. And what can I say? Those evil Christian-oriented males out there, once again, through the Knights of Columbus, doing things like raising money to donate to great causes here across our community. You are such a hateful group, you folks down there in Charlotte.
Well, Joe, I'm glad the Gestapo didn't grab you. That was my worry. And we'll be tuned in tomorrow. You have a great day.
And thank you, Jersey Mike, for the call. And don't worry, they'll have to come and take it, no doubt, from me. And that was the concern, I think, from a buddy of mine who drove by my house yesterday who was wondering why our signal was down. He had a question, and he was like, man, I was just wondering because you never know these days in this way of cancel culture. In fact, one man put out on Twitter that he was concerned the deranged, crooked left has been hunting down free thinkers with a platform at an alarming rate, and he thought I was on the chopping block yesterday. Don't worry, we are here. The equipment is on the way. I'm hoping that our engineer did not, get the pieces that we need for the transmitter sent via the U.S. Postal Service, because it might be a while then if, in fact, we're waiting for USPS to deliver these two components that were fried over the course of the weekend that we finally were able to identify and get things moving in the right direction to make sure that we are up and running at some point by midday today, or maybe a couple of hours past lunchtime. We are 21 minutes past 7 a.m. here on the East Coast on this Tuesday. Happy to be with you through the various digital platforms on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You can find us digitally, also through the mobile app at Big Talker 106.7 FM for the Apple iPhone, for your iPhone, or the Google Play Store for your Android. We're also at BigTalkerFM.com. That's our website, our live audio stream available through that venue as well. Various ways you can tune in. The 106.7 signal down for the count right now, but this is a 12-round match, and we're ready to find our legs and move forward here over the next couple of hours as we get the broadcast rocking and rolling here on this Tuesday morning.
Acoustic wave therapy at the Frank Institute is a revolutionary treatment for inflammation, issues of blood flow, and is a solution for the constant suffering of chronic pain. Through the localized transmission of sound waves, stem cells are stimulated to bring about restored blood flow, vascular regeneration, and the disbursement of pain receptors to affected areas. If you've been told that your issues could not be treated without surgery or prescription, give us a call. Non-invasive, non-surgical, and prescription-free. Acoustic wave therapy is only available at the Frank Institute. Call today, 910-679-8534, and ask about acoustic wave therapy.
This is Mark Markley of Recovering Hope. Don't miss this week's program. My Promise to PJ is a film by Daniel Baldwin about how he helped my friend's son in his battle of addiction. PJ lost the battle, but Daniel kept his promise to run with the Bulls with PJ. Tune in Wednesday at 6 p.m. to hear this touching story as we speak with PJ's parents, Barbara and Pat, as well as Daniel Baldwin with his epic story of friendship, faith, and recovery.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Tune in on Friday mornings to hear The Construction Connection, a collaborative effort between Joe Catenacci with the Big Talker FM and Cameron Moore, the executive officer of the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association. You start the conversation and we bring you the answers as we take a regional, in-depth look at growth-related topics and issues centered around the residential and commercial development and building industry. The Construction Connection, Friday mornings on the Big Talker FM.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
I'm Rob Renz, Marine Corps veteran, entrepreneur, and local business owner. Join me and my buddies on Monday from 6 to 7 for Signal Fire Radio, where we discuss how to successfully transition from the military and become a signal fire in your community. That's Signal Fire Radio, Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. on 106.7 The Big Talk.
You know, we had Grover Norquist, the tax reformer himself from the organization Americans for Tax Reform. He joined this program yesterday and laid out a timeline for us throughout U.S. history where the government has expanded for one reason or the other, maybe an emergency here or the need for more revenue there. Let's implement a tax on this certain group of people. Or, let's increase the costs for this other demographic. Only to find out that when the emergency, the quote-unquote crisis, once it recedes, well, the government rarely pulls back. When I mean rarely, never. I mean, this is what we see here on full display here under the Harris-Biden administration. The latest example of this, courtesy of lawmakers on Capitol Hill and within the administration, is their efforts to seek to make this quote-unquote temporary supercharged pandemic unemployment benefit permanent for Americans across the country. When the government expands, it rarely entirely recedes when the crisis has passed. and this is, in my mind, bullet point number one as far as the efforts being made by our centralized federal government to create another class of dependency in our country. American families need real relief and support to help better provide for their children and their way of life. We do not need an expansion of government to further erode the role of parents while the bureaucrats become more in control. It's that simple, folks. And a good portion of our society here walking around with their blinders on, believing that, of course, Uncle Sam has our best interests in mind. If only we pony up a little bit more and give a little bit more of our freedom, well, then, of course, all our problems go away. And not that we can get, clear-cut journalism to provide you, these glaring efforts to overreach through our government. And we see it across the board. I mean, I caught an article at the Wall Street Journal on Monday. The frenzied climb in lumber prices. Home buyers, renters, and do-it-yourselfers are footing the bill. Well, we have a rise in lumber prices because we shut down business for a year. And as we continue to inject trillions of dollars into our economy, I don't know if you've noticed, but the price of everything continues to go up. But we are seeing a ridiculous uptick in the cost of doing business across our country, across the board. When we look at lumber prices and this article that I saw within the Wall Street Journal, it's good to know that the national media is finally getting around to a story here that is having an impact on so many people. By the way, we've been following this story in regards to the rise in the cost of materials related to construction. We've been highlighting that story for the better part of the last 4 or 5 months. Well, why? Well, because we see a glaring issue and we have relationships with all sorts of people across the wide spectrum of our economy. And twice a month, the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association come in and give us the lowdown as far as their industry is concerned. And we've been talking about how costs have been rising for months. We talk all things construction and real estate related for an hour, twice a month on Fridays. Glad to see that the Wall Street Journal and some of the national news media finally getting to a story that we've been highlighting for the better part of 4 months. I mean, given the unprecedented spending spree that we're seeing across the country through our government, the rise in cost is something known as inflation. Who does inflation affect the most? Well, you and me, the everyday American. We look at, of course, lumber prices, the cost of materials on the rise. Typical new single-family home has increased by nearly $36,000 because of it. And what type of situation does that put the developer, the builder, in when you're signed and ready to go to work for a homeowner in building their house, and 2, 3, 4, 5 months into it, you see these ridiculous rises in prices, and then you have to come back and tell them, well, it's going to cost you more. That puts you in a little bit of a conundrum, no? And for those who may not have the means, of course, to go about building a new home, you're still paying more as well. We've seen an ongoing surge in food and grocery prices that threatens your ability to keep food on the table. Food prices jumped nearly 4% last year. In fact, the U.S. Department of Agriculture estimates grocery bills could increase by another 3% this year. And some experts are betting on even longer-term problems as it relates to inflation, the cost of everything going up, due in large part to the federal government's unprecedented spending spree and money printing splurge over the past year because of COVID. 910-299-7535. Caller, you're with us. Good morning.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Mark.
Good morning. Good to hear you.
And it's good to hear you.
You know, well, I'm glad someone thinks so. Hey, listen, Joe, you know, you were talking to Grover, and then and I was listening. I mean, you're just, you know, taking in every you know, I really respect that guy, and I like what he has to say. But isn't it about time for someone to come out and let's say revive the idea of the fair tax, or what Herman Cain has had he had his 999 plan idea, and I mean, for the first time the left got religious. Sounds more like 666 to me. I remember hearing someone say. But that would really be a good tax system. That would be a good tax structure. I don't necessarily agree with the Bortz and Linder, the idea of a rebate check. I think it would have consequences, perhaps, in what we're seeing right now with free money. But the idea of embedded taxes with everything you buy, and based upon, you pay taxes based upon consumption rather than your income.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds you know, more fair to me. It sounds like a better system.
Come on, fair and equity and all that sort of stuff. Those are just buzzwords, Mark. They don't actually believe that. Or do you believe that that is their intentions there, to level the playing field, as they say, to make the rich pay their fair share? Come on now.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you read any of John Linder and Bort's book, you'll see that it could quite possibly generate more revenue for the government,
of course,
as well. So, I mean, that seems like a win-win. But
right, because our economy, runs on consumer spending. So, ideally, the more money consumers have in their pockets, the more money they're going to, spend on this, that, and the other, which means more money going into the government coffers, because that is the sole way in which the government creates revenue streams through the purchase of products. That's the mindset, or at least that's the idea, right?
I guess so. But one thing's for sure: if you study John Maynard Keynes and his economic theory, back when FDR and Keynes were corresponding with each other, Keynes kept saying, "You're not spending enough money. You're not spending enough money." I think now we can pretty much, well, with the economic, what do they call it now, modern economic theory, I think we can pretty much will come to full terms. Doesn't matter how much money that that the government really injects into the economy. Once the money's dried up and gone, you're back to the same place you were, or worse. So, anyway, I'll leave it at that, and I thank you. And you know, as a truck driver, I go to all kinds of different other places, and I sometimes tune into other morning shows. I really like your show. It's a great show, and I've been able to pick you up as far as Chadburn before. So, so any which way, appreciate what y'all do. Appreciate TK over there, and I appreciate Chad. So y'all have a good day.
Mark, thanks for the call, as always. And thank you to everyone for letting us know that they have not been hearing the terrestrial signal over the last, 48 or so hours. An old buddy of mine, hey, buddy, our buddy Paul Knight, he was the operator, general manager of the radio group CCOM Media years and years ago. That was where the old Big Talker once was settled, alongside a couple of other music formats. Paul is still in the business, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. He loves to stay busy, and because he's well, frankly, he'll admit it, he's a little bit of a nerd when it comes to components, putting things together, taking them apart, rebuilding them, making them more efficient and effective. And he's the one that's hard at work here this morning, awaiting patiently, rather impatiently here, if you're talking to the host, for the new tube and exciter component that will be installed into our transmitter a little later on, and we should be up and running by this afternoon. But in the meantime, various ways, again, that you can listen to us online at bigtalkerfm.com, through our mobile app in the Apple iStore for your iPhone, the Google Play Store for your Android, and then on social media, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also on Facebook, our live broadcast airs each and every morning through our Big Talker FM Facebook page. So, again, thank you, everyone, and keep the calls coming, or keep the emails, the text messages rolling in. And we fully understand that there have been concerns out there that we were canceled, that we were wiped off the map. Not the case. A couple of pieces broke. The transmitter has a blown tube and exciter, whatever the hell that means, and is getting repaired today. So we hope that we're up and running sometime a little after lunchtime. That's at least the estimate that was given to us by our engineer, TK Turbo, and our buddy Paul Knight, who's doing some work for us on the side to get us back up and running. Our call-in number is 910-299-7535. If you'd like to join in on the conversation, that's 910-299-7535.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWA News. Mexico City officials say an elevated section of the city's metro collapsed and at least 20 people have been killed. The mayor says people could still be trapped inside a train which plunged toward a busy boulevard late last night and split in two. Video also shows a car trapped under rubble with dozens of rescuers searching through wreckage from the collapsed structure. Officials say about 70 people were injured. Back here in the Cape Fear, a man is behind bars after a deadly hit-and-run accident in Wilmington. Mitchell Carlton Walker is charged with felony hit-and-run causing death after he allegedly hit Richard Wayne Cathy, who was walking along South College Road early Saturday morning. Cathy later died from his injuries. Officials say Walker abandoned the car he was driving in Oak Island after the crash and was arrested yesterday morning. The victim's lawyer says Walker admitted to police he'd been drinking before the accident. Some local leaders also pushing to make New Hanover County teachers the highest paid in the state. County Commission Chair Julia Olson-Bozeman says next year will be an important year for education after the struggles faced during the COVID-19 pandemic. She says commissioners have been discussing how to fund this during budget meetings. Some help could come from the American Rescue Plan, which provides critical funding for public schools. Today, the Board of Education will vote on a county budget request, and county commissioners will vote on the final budget next month. And now to some good news this morning. One Love Tennis founder Lenny Simpson is now home weeks after suffering a stroke. The 72-year-old tennis pro is attending therapy twice a week, and it's going very well. Speech is an ongoing issue, but Simpson is determined to get back to 100%. One Love Tennis saying, you know, when Lenny sets his mind to something, it's going to happen. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Well, today will feature an early taste of summer in store for us with temperatures jumping into the upper 80s and the low 90s this afternoon, well inland of the coast. And we do have a chance for some strong to severe thunderstorms. We have a level 1 risk for severe weather for some spotty showers and storms to develop for the second half of the day. Late tonight, we're going to see partly to mostly cloudy skies and temperatures remain mild and muggy, dropping down into the low 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Attorney Tom Goolsby will be with us in the second hour of our program today. Looking forward to the conversation, as always, with our former state senator, a member of the UNC Board of Governors, overseeing the UNC system across this beautiful state. 910-299-7535 is our call-in number if you'd like to chime into the program. And caller, you're with us. Good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to tell you 2 mornings in a row I'm kind of addicted to your voice. I've not been able to put the station up, so me being on hold and listening to you now makes me feel a little more comfortable and confident. But tell TK he's fired because I can't get your station right now.
No, the transmitter has conked out. A couple of components went bad and fried over the last couple of days, which is why we have not been up at 106.7. They're on the way. The replacement pieces, they should be installed at some point throughout this morning, and we should be back up and running this afternoon.
Thank goodness. Woo.
I just wanted to assure you this morning that we will be back.
Okay. Tell TK he might get his job back, but right now he's fired.
No doubt. We'll lay him off, and we'll pick him back up. A good old union job. We'll lay him off. Not a government job, because if we lay you off in government or we shut you down, we'll give you all that back pay. We're not that good. But we'll get you your job back once we're up and running.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
And you too. Again, a reminder, you can find us at bigtalkerfm.com. Our website, our live audio feed is available through our website. I get it. You're in the car. You got your phone. You got all these other things going on. Difficult to figure out how you can jump on Facebook and watch the broadcast or through our YouTube channel. Mobile app is a good way in which you can find us through your handheld device. Just search Big Talker 106.7 FM in the App Store for your iPhone or the Google Play Store for your Android. And you can pick us up through those venues as well, along with 106.7 FM. So long as I guess we forgot to feed the mice this morning or the last couple of days, and the wheels failed to turn, and then it fried some of our components out at our radio tower, which is right between Monkey Junction and Carolina Beach. You got to go down this dirt road about a mile and a half, and then you got this big old tower with a bunch of loud machines going, particularly when the power gets cut out. We've made that trek a time or two, particularly when we get some rough weather, mainly hurricanes. And we've been out there a few times in the middle of the night with the chainsaw, just in case a tree falls down. Big old mess sometimes behind the scenes when it comes to just getting out over the airwaves. Again, small, independently owned business we are here, and bit different compared to maybe the bigger corporations that have deeper pockets with investment from all over the country to put into this, that, or the other. In fact, here in the state of North Carolina, it is my understanding that we are one of the only, if not the only, small, independently owned company that has an FM transmitter through the airwaves, whether it be radio, television, or the traditional print media. We're the only one of its kind, from Murphy to Manteo and down the coast and back up to the mountains. So things conk out every once in a while, and I get it, just as frustrated as you are. But here we are, with the courage to move forward here this morning with a somewhat optimistic tone as far as what we do day to day, because we're living in a wild, wild world, folks, where this week the government, along with many across the country, are celebrating National Small Business Week. And we all know how the pandemic and the ridiculous draconian government lockdowns have impacted so many businesses, to the point where, some 40% of small businesses have closed permanently over the past year? Those big box stores and those corporations sure are making out okay. COVID did not shut down more than 40% of small businesses permanently. That was your government. The fact that the government labeled hundreds of thousands of businesses and workers non-essential, I still, to this day, have a hard time understanding how this is all played out. First couple of weeks, flatten the curve. First couple of months, 2-3 months, all right. A lot of uncertainty, unknown strain of infection that is knocking people out. I get it. But the numbers started to come in, and the science and the data became evident, towards the summer of last year. Yet we stuck with the lockdowns. We shut people down. And now, well, the same government that shut you down is the same government that says they're going to lift you back up with more spending and more of your tax dollars. As one Facebook listener pointed out, how is this whole thing situated where, with our straight face, the President of the United States can tell us that no one making under $400,000 a year will be paying more in taxes, yet everywhere you go and everything you purchase is somehow elevated because of what? Government spending, injecting money into the economy, leading to inflation. This has been going on for the past year, and this will continue. We highlighted a little while ago, of course, the rise in material for the construction industry. Well, food prices, they've jumped 4% over the past year. Estimates showing that grocery prices could increase by another 3% this year. Meat prices. Thankfully, we've got our guy, John Mullins, over at America's Choice Gourmet. I haven't bought a piece of meat at a grocery store in a year, thanks to John and his small, independently owned local business, 10 years running now. Meat prices have increased 5.5% last year. We've seen a whopping 11.3% increase in the price of fruits, like apples and strawberries. Food prices going up, the amount of costs to build a home or put together renovations or some type of improvement project around your property, food and housing inflation are just the beginning. In fact, the investors see it. Recent Bank of America survey finds that investors rank inflation as their overall top concern moving through 2021. But hey, let's give the government full control. Why not? You're just some non-essential citizen out there. And if you've been receiving unemployment benefits, well, they want to make those permanent. Some of these programs that are being laid out by the Harris-Biden administration. Look at a $2+ trillion, quote-unquote, American jobs plan that is just going to get ramrodded through Congress. These types of things need to be debated, hashed out, frankly, publicly, so everyone and anyone can see exactly what the government is up to. You can't support small business and simultaneously be in favor for more government spending and an increase in taxes. You can't be in favor of proposals like the PRO Act, piece of legislation championed by Grandpa Joe, that will destroy the ability for people to earn extra income on the side from their full-time job. Pushing this idea that we'll just give everything out there for free and that there's no value in your hard work. When the government expands, it rarely recedes once time and the crisis passes. You can bet your bottom dollar on that. 910-299-7535 is our call-in number. Attorney Tom Goolsby going to join us just after 8:30. We'll also hear from State Senator Danny Britt at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, Senator Britt resides in Lumberton. He'll give us an update from the North Carolina General Assembly this week. Senator Britt represents the 13th District, and he's been their representative since 2017, a lieutenant colonel in the Army National Guard, lives in Lumberton. Senator Britt is the first Republican to have been elected to that seat since the Reconstruction era. We talk again about the stronghold Democrats have had over North Carolina and its state government for over 120 years before Republicans swept into majorities and supermajorities in our state House and Senate, and that began back in 2010. And then somehow, some way, as we worked through the Great Recession into 2010, 11, 12, 13, somehow the groundwork was laid where here we are now, 2021, one of the fastest growing states in the country, a place where people want to live, work, play, retire, invest and grow their business. And that's because, well, we've been able to, yes, grow government conservatively over the past 10 years, lower the burden as it relates to taxes in our state, and have our government put things aside. So when we do hit a rut, we're able to pay our bills. This was not always the case here in the state of North Carolina. And the reformation of the old North State under Republican majorities began in 2010. It's all in there. You can look it up yourself if you don't believe me. Senator Britt going to give us a legislative update from the North Carolina General Assembly just after 9 o'clock this morning. And we'll also hear from our friend Brad Palumbo as well from the Foundation for Economic Education. He has two articles that have caught my attention in the past week at fee.org, where he talks about efforts to make the unemployment benefits and the sweetening of the pie over the past year to make those benefits permanent, the extension, along with efforts to raise the capital gains tax and how that will impact you, even if you make under $400,000 a year, despite the claims being made by Grandpa Joe, along with a story he has out this morning on inflation. Some of the nuggets that we just delivered to you over the last few minutes pulled directly from his article at fee.org as far as the cost of things going up as it relates to housing, construction, and grocery prices. Inflation going up there first, and he says it's only the beginning. We'll talk with Brad Palumbo to round out the broadcast here this morning just after 9:30.
Does it seem like you're visiting the bathroom too much? If you're a man who's constantly going to pee, try Super Beta Prostate. It's the best-selling prostate supplement in America because its ingredient helps reduce urges to pee. That means less bathroom visits and less waking at night with urges to go. Due to overwhelming demand, Super Beta Prostate is flying off the shelves at Walmart. Be sure to get your supply before it's all gone. Get to Walmart and try Super Beta Prostate.
Hey, Bill O'Reilly, and I'm here to tell you about a dramatic new book in my Killing series. It's called Killing the Mob. Now, the mob traces the brutal history of the fight against organized crime in America. From John Dillinger to Bonnie and Clyde, Al Capone to Bobby Kennedy. The real history of these iconic figures is more riveting than any fiction. So please read Killing the Mob. You can get it now wherever books are sold.
We wouldn't sell you a dining room table, so don't buy a medical device from a furniture store. US Med Express is Wilmington's leading supplier of Golden Technology lift and sleep chairs, carrying a variety of models in our showroom at 1733 Dawson Street. Our chairs lead the industry in power lift recliner features and advances in technology. Our chairs are FDA certified as medical devices, which means it's 100% tax deductible and helps with a number of medical conditions, including arthritis, poor circulation, and sleep apnea. Give us a call today at 910-500-6162 or stop by and experience our chairs for yourself at 1733 Dawson Street. That's 910-500-6162. 1733 Dawson Street in Wilmington. US Med Express.
With a customer referral rating of 96%, Two Men in a Truck Wilmington has proven time and time again they are the top local choice when it comes to all of your moving needs. Offering a wide range of professional moving services, including local and long-distance moving, business relocations, both full or partial packing services and storage, Two Men in a Truck is dedicated to exceed customer expectations and reliability, quality of service, and care. To start your quote, log on to twomenandatruck.com or call 910-210-0224.
I'm K.O. Davis from K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree, and I want to be your tree man.
When your trees need cut, 2 letters to know. One is a K, the other is an O. K.O.
Tree man.
Proper trimming is the most important thing that you can do, so don't just hire anybody to do it. You need someone that knows what they're doing.
K.O.
Call the professionals at K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree and visit KOTrees.com.
You know, life is funny in a way where when you're feeling down and out, but continue to put your nose to the grindstone, it's amazing the support you get and the random phone calls you receive. As we were wrapping up the last segment, had a guy that I haven't talked to in months. He's expanding his business from Raleigh down here to the area, and he wants to support the program with his advertising dollars. On a day where our 106.7 signal has been down because of broken components within our transmitter, and all this frustration has been building over the past 3 days for me. You get a call like that. And a random guy that I know but haven't seen in months who lives down the street from me just came cruising by my house yesterday. He saw me outside. He wanted to make sure I was okay. This is why we do what we do. We'll be back.
Keeping Wilmington informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
The U.S. is about to increase fourfold. President Biden raising the ceiling.
Biden said the new limit erases the historically low number set by the previous administration. However, Biden called it a sad truth that the cap of 62,500 refugees will not be met by the end of the fiscal year in September. Biden plans on setting the refugee cap at 125,000 for the 2022 fiscal year.
That's correspondent Mike Gracia. Roll up your sleeve, Junior. The FDA expected to clear the Pfizer COVID vaccine for children ages 12 to 15 by next week. The American Federation of Teachers reportedly played a major role in formulation of the Centers for Disease Control's school reopening guidelines that were issued back in February. That's according to reports from multiple media outlets based on emails between the union, the CDC, and the White House. Stock futures falling deeper into the red on Wall Street. Right now, Dow futures down 92 points. NASDAQ futures off 98. S&P futures down 16 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Tell me why Relief Factor is so successful in lowering or eliminating pain. I'm often asked that question. Pete and Seth Talbot, the father and son founders of Relief Factor, tell me they believe our bodies were designed to heal. The doctors who formulated Relief Factor selected the 4 best ingredients, 100% drug-free ingredients that each help your body deal with inflammation. Order the 3-week quick start now. Discount it to only $19.95 to see if it will work for you too. Call 800-500-8384. ReliefFactor.com.
The world says to man up. What does God say? To be a man and rise up in society, you can't leave God on the sidelines. It requires showing up, being present, standing up, speaking truth. In his powerful and long-awaited sequel to the instant bestseller Kingdom Man, Tony Evans' Kingdom Men Rising challenges men to rise up for what they believe in. Kingdom Men, we must rise. Find out more at tonyevans.org.
New from Tony Evans, sponsored by the Urban Alternative.
Foreign ministers from the group of 7 industrialized nations gathering in London, their first face-to-face meeting in more than 2 years, grappling with threats to health, prosperity, and democracy.
Host country Britain has warned that the increasingly aggressive activities of Russia, China, and Iran pose a challenge to democratic societies and the international rule of law. Top diplomats from the UK, the United States, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan are holding 2 days of talks with an agenda that includes the Tigray crisis in Ethiopia and the precarious situation in Afghanistan, where US troops and their NATO allies are winding down a 2-decade deployment. Zaria Shakili, London.
COVID-19 infections and deaths are mounting with alarming speed in India, with no end in sight to the crisis, and a top expert warning that the coming weeks in the country of nearly 1.4 billion people will be horrible. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. A Democrat push to make D.C. our 51st state hits a Democrat roadblock in the Senate.
Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia says he opposes unilateral action by Congress to make the nation's capital a state. He says it needs to be done through a constitutional amendment. Earlier this month, the House approved a bill strictly along party lines to make the District of Columbia a state with 1 representative and 2 senators. Manchin's rejection shows the effort doesn't have the support of all Democrats in an evenly divided Senate. The bill appears stalled for now. Keith Peters, Washington.
Much of the South running the risk of severe weather again today after tornadoes struck parts of the region on Sunday night and yesterday, causing heavy damage. Large parts of Louisiana and Mississippi, Alabama and Tennessee, as well as corners of Arkansas and Georgia, are at enhanced risk for the worst weather later in the day. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
7 minutes past the top of the hour. You're tuned in to the Big Talker 106.7 FM. You can find us at bigtalkerfm.com. Of course, our live audio feed available each and every day through our website. On the digital space, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find a video portion of the show there on Facebook. Or our mobile app available, newly updated in the Apple iStore for your iPhone and the Google Play Store for your Android. Just search Big Talker 106.7 FM. So we talk across the spectrum on issues surrounding life, government, education, politics, business. We run the spectrum day to day here on the most listened to and entertaining, informative talk program across the coast here up and down the Carolinas. Education, of course, is one of those topics that we continue to hit on as big proponents of school choice in our country and the efforts by some, despite the calls by those same people to eliminate the gaps when it comes to proficiency rates, when it comes to educational ways in which people can comprehend the fundamentals and then move on to be successful and contributing members positively to our society. Those same people who march with the bullhorns in efforts to call for more equity within the system are the same ones that are hell-bent against any sort of choice for parents and their kids when it comes to the best education that is suited for that individual. Well, our guest, Lieutenant Colonel Ray Moore, a retired military chaplain, a homeschooling pioneer. He's been calling for a mass exodus of government schools for the better part of 20 years, and he joins us from the Palmetto State this morning. Ray, it's a pleasure. Good morning.
Hey, thanks a lot. And I'm speaking to people in Wilmington and Myrtle Beach, or about where most of your audience?
Yes, sir, and that's where we're at. We're right in Wilmington, the Myrtle Beach area, and we thank you for spending some time with us this morning.
Well, hey, thank you for having me, because I've got a lot of supporters over in the Myrtle Beach area, and I think some in the Wilmington area as well. I hope some of them are listening in this morning.
And I do as well. And given that we, of course, have pushed this needle to a point where we're learning that there is support across the country to fund students rather than systems, you've been echoing that call for, 25 years?
Almost 25 years. I started the Exodus Mandate Project right here in Columbia, South Carolina in 1997. So I guess we're ticking up to about 25 years. I think it's 24 years to be exact. But I had been advocating the same mission starting about 1994, but I formalized it in a ministry in 1997. And that webpage for your audience is exodusmandate.org. And there's a lot of information, articles. We've got books, DVDs, a number of things, and people can order that information and articles there and get in contact.
Hey, Ray, let me ask you, in your conversations over the past 25 years with parents, grandparents, concerned citizens out there, and, we push a lot of, and put a lot of the blame, or at least, have brought a lot of concerns in regards to, the public school system and how it has failed to adapt and adjust to the times for the better part of, 120 years since the public schools were actually, created many moons ago, a century plus ago. In your efforts to kind of, convince or win over folks as far as, one, having the known fact that it is, the unit at home that is should be playing the central role in educating children, but how are you waking people up these days to the fact that the public school system is rotten to the core?
Well, we've been working at it, like I said, nearly 25 years, and I must say it was very hard slogging in the first few years. We got mostly opposition, even from churches and pastors and families. They just didn't want to give it up. I mean, it's kind of a welfare program. We actually think public schools are kind of like welfare and education. And so people like that, that easy education, and they weren't looking closely at the harm it was doing to their children. But since pandemic hit the culture about a year ago, I guess we could say in March of last year, the schools just all suddenly closed. It sent 55 million children nationally home. I don't know how many would have been in the regions that you cover, but there would have been tens of thousands. And suddenly parents were saying, I really didn't like that system anyway. And a lot of families were thinking about homeschooling. They were thinking about putting their children in a private Christian school, but they just couldn't break away from the easy welfare that the public school system is. And so suddenly they were forced to, and they started evaluating it, realizing that the schools were harming their children. They were looking at the curriculum that was coming into their living rooms. In some cases it was borderline pornography, and they just said enough is enough. And so we have some research now that shows that a minimum, absolute minimum of 10%, and it may go as high as 15 or 20%, will never return to the public school system. They're going to stay home, try to do something else, or put their kids in Christian schools. We have a school here in town where I live, and it's a fairly new school. I think it's less than 8 or 10 years old. And they have a waiting list of 400 children. They can't enroll them because there's not room, wanting to get into the school. So we're going to see a lot of Christian schools start up. We're going to see more homeschool co-ops, and we're going to see a big upgrade in private Christian and homeschooling. And it'll happen in the Wilmington, Myrtle Beach area as well, because I'm already working over at least in Myrtle Beach with some families. So this is a big thing, and it's a once in a 100-year moment for private Christian home education. So I'm excited to tell you, yeah, we are seeing a lot of good things happen in a very new sense.
Retired Lieutenant Colonel Ray Moore with us. He is a retired military chaplain and a guy who's been pioneering the efforts to open parents, people, their eyes to the fact that the public school system has been getting flushed down the toilet for far too long. And, this year, of course, now with some stories being published with just in the last, 24, 36 hours, just how influential the teacher unions were. And we were following it the entire year as well. But now the national media jumping on some of these stories, just showcasing how much, leverage they have in regards to your kids' education. And that is, of course, the role of the teachers' unions to form us in a position here, Ray, where, as you said, many people is this a common thing that you're hearing across the country when we look at alternative schools, that the waiting lists, the lotteries, have hundreds of kids, maybe thousands, depending on districts out there across the country on waiting lists to get out of that public school system?
Yeah, we're tracking as much as we can nationally. Of course, I'm also working with another organization. It's about 2 years old. That's based in San Diego, California. So this is not a regional movement in Myrtle Beach or Wilmington. It's a national movement, and it's actually international. There's a return to homeschool, Christian school, private school, growing all over the world. There were 55 million children that went home in America in March of last year, but 1.3 billion worldwide. And so it's not just an American thing, even though we're leading in this effort. In San Diego, there's a group called publicschoolexit.com, publicschoolexit.com, and I'm chairman of that group, but I'm not the guy that runs it day to day, and I help with the formation of it, and they are doing an incredible good job. We're even reaching into Canada in recent months with a Canadian group of Baptist pastors that want to get their kids out in Vancouver, British Columbia, but it's spread across western provinces of Canada. And then in some cases where one of our member groups is working in Brazil, they have 150 Christian schools in Brazil. So this is a worldwide thing, and it's quite amazing. And we think this is a time to really step up. And I'm a pastor, as you might know, and there's a Greek word, there are two Greek words for time. One is called chronos, where we get our word chronology from in English, but there's another one called kairos, which is a little different emphasis, and it means a divine opportune moment. And this is a kairos moment for the church, for families, for Christian education, homeschooling. I would say a once-in-a-100-year moment, and we hope the churches will step up. Sadly, I hate to have to report it to you. Like I said, I've been in the ministry 45 years, but the pastors are really lagging behind. In some cases, they're the weak link in the church and in the kingdom of God because they're afraid to take this on, because they still have so many public school teachers and public school families in their churches, and they don't want to preach and teach on it and upset people. Well, if they don't do it, children are going to be lost. We have data, research on this, that 80% of Christian children, that's committed Christian families, that public school their kids through their entire careers, 80% of those children abandon the church and the Christian faith in their early adult years. This is why the society is becoming so secular and so pagan. It's because are turning their children over to the enemy to train and educate. Who would ever do that? Why would you turn your children over to the enemy to be educated? But that's what we've done. And so we're trying to correct it, and we're happy to say that it is correcting itself some, even as we speak.
Well, there's no doubt we're living in an upside-down world at this point where in is out, left is right, and up is down. And as you just mentioned, why would you continue to send your kid to a school where they're not getting the fundamentals instilled in them and the necessary tools to hit well, not only proficiency rates, but just the ability to critically think through problems, or the ability to speak in a manner that is somewhat coherent, the ability to speak and interact with others without a screen. These are all sorts of things that, the school does have a role in this, but ultimately, Ray, isn't it time to look in the mirror if you're parents, if you're the family unit there? You need to have the central role in educating your child, even if you do send them off, to a public school or any school at that. You have to have a big part in, forming your kids' education through their formidable years.
That's correct. And of course, part of our argument is that if you do, in this culture in which we live, with critical race theory and transgender arguments and doctrines and eras dominating our public schools and particularly higher education, if you're sending your children into that now, you're really not a responsible parent. Now, that's a harsh thing to say because people don't like to hear that, but you've got to take another look at what you're doing as a parent. And you can't put the children there, hours a week and try to undo the harm that's being done by having them at home a few hours a week where they watch TV most of the time, or they go to Sunday school 1 hour a week. That doesn't cut it. It's not enough of a remedy or an antidote to be able to undo the harm that's being done. So it's time for parents to step up and take charge of their education. And by that means either do it themselves or get the churches to do it. Get your pastor engaged. And if he's not engaged in this, and just get a delegation in the church and go sit down with him and tell him what he should be doing. And he'll listen if he's a man of God. And so this is a crisis, and it's affecting us. The culture is rapidly sinking into the moral abyss, and we're not even doing our part. So we can at least save our own children, and it's a very simple thing. Go to publicschoolexit.com if you're interested in curricula choices. There's so much information there. Models of how to homeschool, arguments, and, of course, on my site, exodusmandate.org, which is much older. I don't have as much up-to-date information, but we do have a lot of books and helps. We had movies. My wife and I wrote a book together some years ago called The Promise of Jonadab, Building a Christian Family Legacy in a Time of Cultural Decline. And that book helps parents know how to raise their children in the home, in Christian school, equipping them and training them where they will pass on the faith and the torch of the Christian faith down through the generations. So there's so much help out here. If this pandemic shutdown, had happened in 1980, we couldn't have done much with it. But now there's a huge national and international infrastructure of Christian organizations, Christian schools, homeschool co-ops, where we could assimilate millions of children into this system out of the pagan and godless public school system overnight.
I think there's no doubt, it's time now for people to step up, and it's time now for the government to get out of the education business. It's been far too long, no doubt. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Ray Moore with us, the director and founder of Exodus Mandate. You can find out more about what he does and why he does it at exodusmandate.org. Also, another group of folks that he works with out in San Diego, as you just heard, publicschoolexit.com. And he also has a couple of documentaries that you can tune into through his websites. His latest film, Escaping Common Core, escapecommoncore.com, and another movie that he has released, indoctrinationmovie.com. All resources and materials that you can find as it relates to his efforts to shine the light on, school choice, homeschooling, and getting your kids out of government education. Lieutenant Colonel.
I do also have a PowerPoint and will travel. Live in Columbia, so I can make a trip to Myrtle Beach or Wilmington very easily. If they're listening to me in California, it's not easy to make a trip out there, even though I work very closely with that group. So if anybody is interested in your region and give me a couple of weeks or a month heads up, I'll make a trip over there and speak to a church or a group, particularly in Myrtle Beach and Wilmington.
Lieutenant Colonel, thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you for having me, and I'll come back if you want me.
You got it. That's Lieutenant Colonel Ray Moore, a retired military chaplain, a homeschooling pioneer. Again, exodusmandate.org, his website. He's the director and founder of that organization, also chairman of publicschoolexit.com. These are just two examples of the grassroots movement that is growing day by day. Parents, grandparents, concerned citizens across the country, empowering parents to assume their central role in educating their children. Novel thought. 24 minutes past the hour here in the year 2021. Local attorney Tom Goolsbee going to join us just after the bottom of the hour news break. We'll also hear from North Carolina State Senator Danny Britt out of the Lumberton area. He'll be with us just after 9 o'clock.
Try to be best, 'cause you're only a man, and a man's got to learn to take it. Try to believe, though the going gets rough, that you gotta hang tough to make it. History repeats itself, try and you succeed. Never doubt that you're the one, and you can have your dream. You're the best around, nothing's gonna ever keep you down.
We interrupt to bring you this horrible news. Experts say we'll see larger numbers and different breeds of mosquitoes to wreak havoc on your backyard, making this year one of the worst.
Anopheles and Culex variety mosquito.
Yeah. Experts also say there is only one defense against this onslaught. Call the Bugman from Bugno Pest Control.
That's Mr. Bugno to you, pal.
Bugno Pest Control's mosquito-killing formula keeps your yard bug-free. Call Bugno Pest Control, 910-367-2501, or visit bugnopestcontrol.com. Take back your yard.
Hear Tom Goolsbee on the Joe Catenacci Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Parents, how old were you when you paid off your student loan? Are you still paying for it? Student debt can be crippling, and today it's even more important to keep debt in check. Help your student build a brighter financial future by encouraging them to attend Cape Fear Community College for the first 2 years. CFCC costs thousands less than four-year schools, and classes in our university transfer program are accepted at four-year schools across the state and beyond. Help your kids get a head start academically and financially at CFCC. Learn more at cfcc.edu.
Acoustic wave therapy at the Frank Institute is a revolutionary treatment for inflammation, issues of blood flow, and is a solution for the constant suffering of chronic pain. Through the localized transmission of sound waves, stem cells are stimulated to bring about restored blood flow, vascular regeneration, and the disbursement of pain receptors to affected areas. If you've been told that your issues could not be treated without surgery or prescription, give us a call. Non-invasive, non-surgical, and prescription-free. Acoustic wave therapy is only available at the Frank Institute. Call today, 910-679-8534, and ask about acoustic wave therapy.
I'm Rob Renz, Marine Corps veteran, entrepreneur, and local business owner. Join me and my buddies on Monday from 6 to 7 for Signal Fire Radio, where we discuss how to successfully transition from the military and become a Signal Fire in your community. That's Signal Fire Radio, Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. on 106.7 The Big Talk.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006. As we hit the bottom of the hour, of course, traditionally and for, 3.5 years, this segment between 8 and 8:30 have been dedicated to our buddy Lenny Simpson with the One Love tennis program. We've had to take a step back, of course, over the past several weeks due to Lenny's health issues as he recovers from the stroke he suffered. Got wind yesterday, and you'll hear an update at the bottom of the hour here with our friends over at WWAY. Coach Lenny is home, and the folks over at One Love are thrilled to share the news that Lenny is safely home and that your prayers have worked. And they want to give thanks for the tremendous outpouring of support and love. Lenny right now attending therapy twice a week. It's going well. He continues to get some of the best care around. The issues with his speech and the ability to communicate verbally is an ongoing issue, but Lenny and his work ethic, once he sets his mind to something, it's going to happen. So they just continue to ask for continued prayers and support for Lenny and his journey to a full and complete recovery. I just want to express their many thanks to everyone for the amazing support. We'll keep you updated. If you would like to send well wishes to Lenny, cards can be sent to their One Love headquarters at 1406 Orange Street. That's 1406 Orange Street, Wilmington, North Carolina, 28401. If you'd like to send cards and words of encouragement, again, 1406 Orange Street, Wilmington, North Carolina, 28401, or you can send email messages of support to their website and their email address, info, I-N-F-O, at one-love-tennis.org. Info at one-love-tennis.org. Thinking about you, Lenny. Yeah, we miss you here on these Tuesdays. Look forward to getting in touch and seeing you real soon.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWA News. Mexico City officials say an elevated section of the city's metro collapsed and at least 20 people have been killed. The mayor says people could still be trapped inside a train which plunged toward a busy boulevard late last night and split in two. Video also shows a car trapped under rubble with dozens of rescuers searching through wreckage from the collapsed structure. Officials say about 70 people were injured. Back here in the Cape Fear, a man is behind bars after a deadly hit-and-run accident in Wilmington. Mitchell Carlton Walker is charged with felony hit-and-run causing death after he allegedly hit Richard Wayne Cathy, who was walking along South College Road early Saturday morning. Cathy later died from his injuries. Officials say Walker abandoned the car he was driving in Oak Island after the crash and was arrested yesterday morning. The victim's lawyer says Walker admitted to police he'd been drinking before the accident. Some local leaders also pushing to make New Hanover County teachers the highest paid in the state. County Commission Chair Julia Olson-Bozeman says next year will be an important year for education after the struggles faced during the COVID-19 pandemic. She says commissioners have been discussing how to fund this during budget meetings. Some help could come from the American Rescue Plan, which provides critical funding for public schools. Today, the Board of Education will vote on a county budget request, and county commissioners will vote on the final budget next month. And now to some good news this morning. One Love Tennis founder Lenny Simpson is now home weeks after suffering a stroke. The 72-year-old tennis pro is attending therapy twice a week, and it's going very well. Speech is an ongoing issue, but Simpson is determined to get back to 100%. One Love Tennis saying, you know, when Lenny sets his mind to something, it's going to happen. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Well, today will feature an early taste of summer in store for us with temperatures jumping into the upper 80s and the low 90s. This afternoon, well, inland of the coast, and we do have a chance for some strong to severe thunderstorms. We have a level 1 risk for severe weather for some spotty showers and storms to develop for the second half of the day. Late tonight, we're going to see partly to mostly cloudy skies, and temperatures remain mild and muggy, dropping down into the low 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Attorney Tom Goolsbee joins us every Tuesday inside this 8 o'clock hour, former state senator, member of the UNC Board of Governors. Tom, it's a pleasure, my friend. I hope your week is off to a great start.
It is, Joe. Thank you very much. Same to you.
And, yeah, doing all right, given that I'm paying more for groceries, more for fuel. My taxes are getting ready to go up. The opportunity to make, money on the side maybe, dwindling with legislation on Capitol Hill promoting what is it known as the PRO Act. Everything other than that is going quite well here this morning.
Well, I mean, Joe, you've just been living too large too long. You need to learn to cut back and eat less. Just live a much more reformed life, much more sedentary. If you just obey the rules, stay at home. Don't shake hands with people, sit on the couch, watch TV, enjoy the entertainment that you're fed, and just believe, Joe. Believe it'll be a better day.
I mean, really, that's where we're at this point. I mean, this week, the government, everyone out there, hashtag National Small Business Week. Same folks who are, highlighting small businesses, which we should, because we all know how the pandemic and the ridiculous government lockdowns, shut down most of them permanently. These same people touting small businesses, the engine of our economy, but, out of the same breath, they're also getting ready to, raise taxes on businesses and create a situation that's going to make it even more difficult to operate in somewhat of a way in which they can make a little profit and put a little away for themselves.
Well, Joe, of course, it's not about us It's about what we can do for Silicon Valley and corporate America and the Chinese. So the more we can shut our economy down, the more we can pretend that we're helping small business when everything that's being done is being done not to help small business. I mean, you look at how well Amazon and Target and Walmart and all these national retailers and online sellers did during the pandemic. Why would they want anything to change? Oh, we'll throw some comments at folks in small business, but as far as doing anything to help them, I mean, look at where all the money went in these multi-trillion-dollar bailouts. Very small percentage went to the people. It was enough, you throw some bread to the peasants and give them a little bit of circus, and then, of course, the rest of everything goes to you. And that is what we see over and over and over again. It's worked since the times of the Romans and the Greeks, and that is exactly what they're doing today. And if people don't pay attention, and they don't, I mean, they're too busy on Facebook and buying stuff on Amazon and watching things on television, not reading books, thinking, listening to intelligent shows like this, and then acting. That's what you get, Joe. You get the government you deserve, as Rousseau told us.
And with that said, it's just amazing to me, over the last year, and I almost have this thought on a daily basis, particularly over the last, say, 7 or 8 months, just how the government, basically labeled hundreds of thousands of businesses, workers, livelihoods. They labeled us non-essential. I mean, that's what the government thinks about you and me, the everyday, man and citizen of our country. You're non-essential.
Well, I mean, what is essential, of course, keeping Target open, keeping the restaurants, the big restaurants that, of course, had their branches where they had their drive-throughs. And I mean, you think about how it worked out for the little mom and pop restaurants. A friend of mine was telling me, lives in Chicago. My brother confirmed this, who lives there too. About 25+% of their restaurants just are not coming back. It may be in upwards of 40%. And these were the little mom and pops. These weren't the Del Frisco's. These weren't the super high-end corporate restaurants or the low-end corporate restaurants. These were the family-owned 2 or 3 generation places that had a good clientele. They're not coming back. Now, here where we live, because of tourism and all the other stuff and the limited land that we have and the folks that want to come here, a little different for us. I think the folks that went out of business, somebody else will pick up the ball and potentially open that small business back up, particularly restaurant-wise. But in these cities where everybody's fleeing, where everybody's leaving, New York State, New Jersey, Illinois, California, I mean, there's just going to be a lot of people left in the lurch, and I feel sorry for them, Joe. They're all coming here. I guess we can welcome them. This is where they're heading to, and we'll watch our community grow. But for America overall, it's very sad what's happening. But of course, the mainstream media is putting a good spin on it for us because Uncle Joe's in charge and Kamala, and they're going to make everything work for us. So, they'll pretend to pay us and we'll pretend to work, that old Soviet saying.
I mean, when we look at that, and we'll have a conversation a little later on this morning about an effort, that is not being reported on, of course, by the national news media, to expand these unemployment benefits to a permanent status. What does that tell you? It tells me that it's an all-out effort to create another class of people dependent on the government. When you're talking about making some of these government checks permanent to people who are not working right now, though there are plenty of jobs out there. If you go anywhere, you see hiring now, help wanted signs on pretty much every storefront window across America.
Well, that is very true, Joe. And what we have to do, of course, the folks that are out there and realize what's going on, because knowledge is power, is we can use that to our benefit. I feel like every day the average person gets more and more dumbed down, lazier. They believe more and more of the tripe that they hear, which makes no sense at all, whether it's coming from the business establishment, the government, the healthcare establishment, you name it, however it is. But those of us who can see through that, who realize what's really going on, who are willing to work hard, keep their nose to the grindstone, and figure out a way to make things work, I think opportunities are abounding. I mean, I just see more and more people sort of cutting the lights off, dimming down, being quiet, stepping back, and retiring early. I mean, for the life of me, this looks to me like the best time for hardworking folks to step up, take advantage of what is going on, and move forward. But, that's me. That's not, of course, what anybody's being told. It's slow down, take your government check, don't do anything, sit at home. You can't do anything. Everything's rigged. Forget it. I don't buy that. Now, there's a lot of forces working against the little guy, and I do agree with that. But, whenever you have difficult times, there's always opportunities that present themselves, and you got to be willing to jump on those.
Well, when you talk about the little guy out there, particularly small business owners, and the way they've had to try and foot their bill over the past year, keep themselves afloat, to keep employees employed, and then we look at with this government spending comes what? Inflation, and we are seeing the rise in costs across the board. I mean, when we look at the construction industry, for instance, we've been talking about the rise of materials and the cost of home prices going up as a result of this ridiculous injection of government money, our money, into the economy. And then look at the grocery store. You're paying what? Probably 5-10% more than what you were paying a couple of years back for groceries, fuel across the board. I've got a guy here who works in HVAC. He says he's seen 7 to 10% increases. The 1st of May on different sorts of equipment, a 40% increase in sheet metal. Not making it very easy for the middle guy to navigate, this post-pandemic world that we're living in.
No, and also, Joe, just look at even vehicles. A friend of mine who leased a car gets a call the other day from the dealership wanting him to consider letting them turn his car in early, pay him for the car, because his car is now worth more than when he got it 3 years ago. And they want him to either trade it in or let them buy it from him. I mean, and again, the insanity out there, because apparently we can't get the parts from China. They can't manufacture the cars. If any of you who are planning on going on vacation this summer, of course, you've heard on the news, before you even book your trip, you better make sure you can find even a rental car when you get there, because they're not available. Because, of course, all the cars were sold off and they haven't been manufactured. And I never in my life would I have thought, with the dealerships that were full of cars just overflowing, that we would have some type of car shortage, and that used vehicles would go up in value. I was ready for that market to crash. So it is indeed interesting, but again, that's an opportunity for the folks that are in the car business. The opportunities around here for folks that are in the building business, as we continue to see people move here, real estate. I mean, there are tons of opportunities always. You've just got to look for them, but the government is doing everything they can to crush our economy. And folks say, how can they be this stupid? And I keep saying, Joe, they're not this.
Local attorney Tom. I mean, it's
they're coming after you.
It's incredibly just baffling to me that there are large swaths of our population that just don't see this, and truly believe that the federal government, when you lay out an American jobs and family plan, that this is something that is going to be entirely good for you and your family. Because it sounds good. The reports out there through the national news media are highlighting all this investment in families. at the end of the day, it takes, many of the opportunities away from families and just puts bureaucrats in control of everything.
Absolutely. It's not the way our government was meant to run. As Jefferson said, the government that governs least governs best. The whole idea was that government can't do much of anything. It can wage war, it can raise taxes, and that is about it when it came to our founding fathers. Everything else was to be done by the free market and by people and be done at the local level. When we originally designed the Constitution, truly the highest office you actually elected someone for was your local congressman. That was your local U.S. representative. You had the electors that elected the president. You had the Senate. You had the legislature in your state that elected the U.S. senators. On a local level, with very, very small federal government. Our founding fathers didn't design anything like we have today. Why? Not because they didn't understand it, because they were idiots. They didn't design it that way because they knew it wouldn't work. If you think what's going on in Washington, you got a president who served up there longer than most people in the show are alive, 50 years. And what's he done for us? Has the country done well over the last 50 years? What have we seen happen? Have they fixed government? No. We've got a big government guy in charge, and we're going to get exactly what we paid for. That's exactly what he's going to bring us. And again, don't get surprised. And don't think that any of this is anything but a game to these folks. They get up there in Washington, and you have to pry them off the shelf to get them out of there. They never want to leave, and most of the time, because of the machines they build around themselves for fundraising, they never have to. And they like it that way. And they like being up there, and they like being in the district and enjoying all the perks, and you get to pay for it. And that is the way they've designed it, and we've all sat by and let it happen. And the beautiful thing, Joe, as you and I both know, is the way our country's still set up, supposedly, once every 2, 4, or 6 years, you can get rid of every single one of them. But for some reason, the American people just won't pick up the ball and do what needs to be done. So we get what we have now.
Attorney Tom Goolsey with us here this morning, member of the UNC Board of Governors, former state senator. Tom, here across North Carolina, a lot of conversations dealing with the police-involved shooting up in Elizabeth City, and there's debate now, and it continues over this North Carolina law that was put in place a couple of years back in regards to releasing body camera footage. And as an attorney, I figured I get your take on it, because prior to 2016, there was no such legislation in that much of law enforcement was able to keep these sorts of things basically hidden, not released into any sort of public light. Now you have to go through a judge, basically, a little bit different than other state laws where across the rest of the country there's been efforts to push legislation and successfully in some cases where police have to release it within 48 hours, 72 hours, wherever it may be. What's your take on this debate as it continues over this North Carolina body camera footage for law enforcement agencies and that release of it?
Well, Joe, I had a lot to do with the expansion of body cams when I was in the Senate. I do a lot of DWI trials. In fact, I've got one on the calendar today. And the one thing that I felt like we were missing, because you have a law enforcement officer say one thing, you have a citizen say another, and I could not understand why, with the cheap technology, we did not have body cams and cameras in all of our cars. I didn't get many people to pay attention to what was going on until we had an incident down in Wilmington where some state troopers that I personally knew, I had been against them on the other side of defending against them as law enforcement officers for many years, but I knew both of them to be truthful guys. They were just straight shooters. They arrested people. They charged them with crime. I would fight it. But I found them to be truthful people. They were accused of abusing a woman and falsely trying to charge her and all this stuff. They didn't have a body cam. And I said, I defended those guys. I remember Governor Perdue calling me because she wouldn't take a stand defending them. And I told her, I said, Governor, I know both these guys. They've always been honest with me. I've been their opponent in many trials, and I'm standing up for them. I know who they are. And the way the thing finally worked out, there was some camera video inside, I believe, the law enforcement center that helped their story some. And the whole thing blew over, but it gave me the opportunity to really push for money for the highway patrol for body cameras and for car cameras, and it sort of spread across the state. And I think cameras are extremely important. They law enforcement officers, honest law enforcement officers, who are the large majority of them, like body cameras. Why? Because it protects them. That's the reason the highway patrol was with me in pushing that legislation, getting the money so that we could have it. I think that with body cameras, of course, that evidence should be released right away. I think it helps the honest officers be able to defend themselves in the departments. I love using it because it makes my cases a whole lot easier one way or the other. When you look at body cam footage, many times, most of the time, it's pretty easy to tell what went on. It's like a third disinterested witness who gets to come into the courtroom and show you the perspective of the body camera without anyone being able to spin it. Well, I was thinking, I thought, he said, she said, their speech was slurred, they were unsteady on their feet, all the other things that I hear. Well, you get to see it and hear it, both parties. So I think that body cam, all that being said, I think that body cam footage should be released quickly. I saw where Danny Britt, who's the head of Judiciary Committee, which I had been head of in the Senate, is saying that they are looking to improve the law and figure out how to make it better. Of course, right now you've got judges who make those decisions. I think we should, again, revisit this, get all the parties together, look at a way to be able to make sure that we're releasing that footage in a timely manner that can be used to defuse a situation or show actually what occurred, good, bad, or ugly, as quickly as possible so people can figure out actually can see it for themselves and figure out what's actually going on.
In fact, we will have State Senator Danny Britt on our program right after the top of the hour news break. So we will, of course, discuss this topic, obviously, and you'll hear from him as far as what sorts of things could be tweaked and changed, again, to diffuse or support, a situation that may be playing out. We had more protests last night in Elizabeth City, 4 more people arrested. And anytime, to me, Tom, when we get one of these incidents, as terrible as it is, one way or the other, I think it says it all when you are laying a man to rest who has died for one reason or the other. When the folks of the Reverend Al Sharpton ilk or the Reverend William Barber, when they are the ones delivering the eulogy on a man that they have no idea and have probably never met in their entire life, when they are the ones delivering the eulogy, I think it speaks volumes as far as just how distorted they try and make these types of situations, rather than try and get it right and figure things out in a positive light where we can come together and make change, or put the responsible parties in check. Instead, you get these types of folks just stirring the pot of divisiveness, and it doesn't bring us any closer to a solution to many of the issues that we face.
Agreed, Joe. Very much agreed. I'm glad you have Danny on. He is a practicing attorney up there in Robeson County, and he is the state judiciary chair. He'll be able to tell you exactly what they're thinking. Hopefully, they can craft something that will get these tapes released in a much more timely manner and be able to get it through the governor's desk. Hopefully, it won't be one of those mini bills that he is vetoing. So Danny's a good guy to talk to. I'm glad you get to talk to him at the top of the hour.
Local attorney Tom Goolsby with us here this morning. Tom, we've got a couple of minutes left. Anything else on your mind here today that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Only, pay attention to what's going on. The the difficulties that we will continue to run into, I know are going to be frustrating to a lot of people, and so many folks focus on the negative. We live in such a beautiful area, and this is a beautiful time of year. Just get outside, stay healthy, do the right things, take care of your family. Life is good, and don't let it pass you by, because before you know it, it will do just that, Joe. And I hope that you're getting yourself outside, enjoying a lot of good sporting events as things get moving.
Oh, you know it. It's about 1 o'clock every afternoon where I'm just about had enough of the news cycle, and it's time to go. Be a dad, enjoy the environment. Yeah, even conservatively minded political thinkers could enjoy nature and the environment. Tom, who would have thought that was possible?
Exactly. Well, you can thank America for the fact that we have it all, because capitalism paid for it, and we'll continue to enjoy it. So go to the beach and enjoy life. This is the only one you get.
And in fact, it's a beach type of day as far as the temperatures out there. Upper 80s today. Tom, get out and enjoy it. Live your life, because you either get busy living or you get busy dying, right?
You got it, my friend. God bless.
And thanks a lot, Tom. As always, it's our friend Tom Goolsby, local attorney, member of the UNC Board of Governors. Time to move beyond the mask and our culture of fear, as my friend Ray Nothstein put it in his latest piece at CarolinaJournal.com. Fear, the opposite of freedom. Fear, a powerful tool for tyranny. Let's overcome it so it doesn't become our collective undoing. Moving beyond the mask and our culture of fear as we head to the top of the hour. Again, as we mentioned, State Senator Danny Britt of Robeson County resides in Lumberton, practicing attorney, member of the North Carolina State Senate. In fact, the first Republican elected to his seat in the 13th district since the Reconstruction era. He has some thoughts in regards to the body camera footage law that Tom and I were discussing, and that has been up for debate over the past couple of weeks. We'll get his thoughts on maybe some potential changes to that law, his take on what has gone on so far up in the Elizabeth City as far as the judge's decision to release the footage to the family. 30 or so days, then the public will get a look at it. We'll also get an update as far as some of the happenings within the legislature at the State General Assembly in Raleigh, and we'll get that legislative update from State Senator Danny Britt when we get back here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Keeping Whiteville informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. Mexico City awoke this morning to word of a light rail disaster. A support pier for an elevated section of the city's metro collapsed. It sent a train onto a busy street below. At least 23 people are dead, around 70 injured. The BBC's Will Grant is in the Mexican capital.
Mexico City's subway system is one of the busiest in North America. In fact, the second busiest after New York, moving tens of millions of passengers a week. But it is still a surprise that it's the newest line and not one of the older ones that has had this collapse. There's been fears among the emergency crews, the ambulance crews, the firefighters, that there could be further collapse unless they can secure the rest of that overpass. But there will be huge questions later on for the mayor's office and for the previous mayors under whom the extension of Line 12 was put in.
The COVID picture continues to brighten in the U.S. Los Angeles County Health Officer Dr. Barbara Farrar says there are encouraging signs.
I'm really hopeful about the deaths staying relatively low. The deaths, in fact, are often intimately linked to hospitalizations. And as long as our hospitalization numbers continue to decline, even a little bit, the death numbers will stay really low and could even drop.
More states are lifting remaining COVID restrictions, others moving in that direction. In New York and New Jersey, most pandemic-related capacity restrictions will end on the 19th of this month. Forecasters warn that much of the South could see more severe weather today. Tornadoes struck parts of the region on Sunday night and yesterday, causing considerable damage. The National Storm Prediction Center says the worst of today's weather could be in parts of Louisiana and Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee. On Wall Street, Dow futures down 154 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following are real-life stories from Trinity Debt Management.
My story begins with debt, a lot of debt.
I used my credit cards as a source of income.
It was not a good situation.
I couldn't pay my bills.
The interest on the cards was really high.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
I initially was scared to call, and immediately I felt relief.
They contacted all of our creditors, and they put us on a plan for success.
Trinity will consolidate your accounts into one easy-to-manage monthly payment, reduce your interest, and possibly improve your credit score. You'll save thousands.
I've been able to pay off close to $15,000.
We're doing a lot better.
Please pick up the phone and see how affordable and easy it is to pay off your debt.
It's a godsend.
We're debt-free for keeps.
Call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976. That's 1-800-990-6976.
The European Union has canceled its observer mission for Ethiopia's June elections.
The EU had two main requirements. As well as independence for its mission, it wanted to import its own communication systems. It said these were needed to ensure the observers' safety, especially given Ethiopia's volatile security situation. According to a statement, neither requirement could be met, despite the EU offering 20 million euros to the electoral board. This will be Ethiopia's first national elections since Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power. The EU's withdrawal could pose questions over his government's pledge to conduct polls that meet international standards of credibility.
That's the BBC's Kalkadan Yaveltel. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu facing a midnight deadline to put together a new coalition government or face the possibility of leading the Likud party into the opposition for the first time in 12 years. News and analysis, townhall.com. Air travel continues to recover from the pandemic.
Although travel is still below normal, the Transportation Security Administration said that nearly 1.67 million people were screened at U.S. airport checkpoints on Sunday, the highest number since March of last year, when the pandemic was beginning to explode across the U.S. But Sunday's crowds were still 35% below the corresponding Sunday in 2019. Airlines say bookings started to pick up around mid-February, and they're optimistic about the summer vacation season. John Scott reporting.
The Biden administration has reiterated that the Dakota Access Oil Pipeline should continue operating while the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers conducts an extensive environmental review, although the Corps said that, again, it could change its mind on that. Once again on Wall Street this hour, the Dow futures down 138 points, while NASDAQ futures are off 133. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
Back for our third and final hour of the program. You can find us at BigTalkerFM.com. Our live audio feed available by logging on to our website, once again, at bigtalkerfm.com. Various ways in which you can tune into the broadcast each day. Video portion of the show available through Facebook and YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Big Talker 1067 FM. Another way in which you can join us is through our audio feed through our mobile app, newly updated app for the Apple iPhone in your iStore. You can find us at Big Talker 1067 FM, also through the Google Play Store for you Android users out there. Search again, Big Talker 1067 FM, and download our mobile app. Take us wherever you may be. Again, just to give you a little update as far as the transmitter and the terrestrial 1067 FM signal, we have been out for the last couple of days, and the system has been diagnosed. The replacement pieces are on the way. Some components failed us towards the back end of the weekend, and couple of days for those pieces to get here, for us to diagnose the problem, and our engineers at hand will also be hard at work once they arrive here today. We should be up and running at 106.7 FM over the next several hours. I'm hoping by around 1, 2 of this afternoon, we'll be back sounding loud and clear across southeastern North Carolina through our 106.7 FM signal. But again, there are various ways in which you can tune in, whether it be our website at bigtalkerfm.com. See, we've been trying to condition you over the course of the last several years to find alternative ways to join us each and every morning, whether it be, again, through our website, our social media, our app. Of course, you can get a podcast version of the show through our website, my website at joecats.com. That's JOECATS.com. We're awaiting North Carolina State Senator Danny Britt. He is scheduled to join us right now, but as the host of the program, the one who takes phone calls while also trying to navigate the technology, oftentimes we run into a bit of a snag, and when folks are calling you while you're on the air, hard to take a phone call and continue with the live programming as we are here this morning. Senator Danny Britt represents the 13th District, Robeson County. He lives in Lumberton, the first Republican to have been elected to that seat since the Reconstruction era. Again, a reminder that North Carolina and its state government had been controlled by Democrat majorities within our General Assembly. And hell, even the governor's mansion, we've only had 4 terms with a Republican governor in the state's history. 120 years of Democrat control until around 2010, when Republicans swept in with supermajorities, majorities, and from 2010 until present day, we have seen a heck of a turnaround as far as our state's fiscal sanity goes, as far as people wanting to live, work, play here, the massive growth that we have seen as the exodus continues from many states to the north and out west as well. We've been conservatively growing government at a time in which we've been also lowering taxes, despite cautious claims being made by people like the King, Governor Cooper, telling us that, if we lower taxes, we're going to run into revenue and budget shortfalls. Well, the complete opposite occurred while Republicans were making this effort over the past decade or so, and even calls now to lower taxes further here in our state, all in the while the federal government wants to increase taxes across the board throughout various ways, though the claim is, of course, that no one under $400,000 a year is going to pay more in taxes. That's a good one, a joke, I guess. It's Comedy Central out here every time the commander-in-chief takes the podium. Senator Danny Britt with us here this morning. Senator, it's a pleasure, and welcome to the program. Thanks. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate you having me on the show.
So I just want to kind of get a little bit of a legislative update, as far as some of the discussions going on within the General Assembly, and then I've got, obviously a lot of debate going on here in North Carolina surrounding this body camera law, and you've weighed in on it just a bit as an attorney. And as someone who obviously helped piece together some of these things and looking to maybe even revisit making some changes to this legislation, and that's the responsibility of you as a lawmaker to examine what's working, what's not, and to make tweaks and turns when you feel that you need to.
That's correct. I mean, I think it's always good to be open-minded about any kind of legislation, at least to have the discussion and evaluate whether or not it's the best policy decision for this state to make. But just because you find the need to have discussion doesn't necessarily follow that you're going to have to affect change. Sometimes we can have the discussion, come to the conclusion that we feel as though everything's fine the way it is.
Well, with that said, as far as some of the other proposals and different sorts of things that are being discussed within your legislative body and across the General Assembly, I know that the reining in on the governor's emergency powers has been a top priority, and that's just not for Governor Cooper, but who would have thunk over the past year that we'd be in a situation where it was kind of a one man that decides all for 10.3 million North Carolinians. Maybe a time to revisit something like that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We passed some legislation that would have limited his powers. We passed some through the Senate and through the House last legislative cycle. We also passed several mini bills that would reopen things that he had shut down with his executive orders. But we would be reopening things safely. Of course, he vetoed those bills. This legislative session, we have a bill that Senator Jim Bergen, Senator Bill Rabin, and I cannot recall for the life of me right now who else is on that legislation, but we voted it out last week, looking at how the emergency powers are used in the future. It wouldn't affect the current pandemic. However, we basically believe as a body, the majority at least, believes that one person should not be making those decisions. It's not a dictatorship. It's not a monarchy. We're all elected to make these decisions for our people, and we believe the Council of State has a role in weighing in on those executive orders. And this executive powers bill that was ran last week will rein in those powers so that no executive order can go beyond 45 days unless it's extended by the General Assembly. And even then, that executive order needs to go before the Council of State. And the Council of State, a mix of Democrat and Republicans currently, should weigh in on that. No governor, no matter what his party is, should be able to control the state for what's going on almost 2 years now without anyone else having a say-so in how business is conducted.
Yeah, I think, of course, this is penned in the media and the press that Republicans taking an eye on Governor Cooper, though I think in the future Governor Cooper's term will end, and this legislation, if it were to become the law of the land, would help bring more transparency and openness, something that's been sorely missed from this whole conversation for everyday people to consume. The openness and transparency needed so everyone can get a good idea as far as the situation at hand and what our leaders are ultimately going to decide as it relates to our future, whether it be our business, our school, and all facets of our life.
That's exactly right. I mean, what we're having to do, or what we've had to do for the last year and a half, is sit back and wait for the governor's announcement as to what mandate is coming next, or what mandate that he imposed is being lessened next. And again, the bill we passed last week does not affect the current situation that we're dealing with. And we did so for a political standpoint. We want to make it less likely that this bill gets vetoed because we think things are starting to return to normal. But more important than what Cooper has done over the last year and a half, that we can't do much to change going forward. We see this as being a very bad way for the government to run, by just having one person control everything. And going forward, we want to ensure, rather it's Republican, Democrat, rather the Council of States made up of Republicans or Democrats, that there is more weigh-in about the decisions that are made that impact our entire state by more of the people that are elected to make those decisions.
Senator Danny Britt with us of Robeson County, resides in Lumberton, represents that area of the state up at the North Carolina Senate. Also, Senator Britt, some legislation that has caught our eye, and this has been another discussion in regards to education that has garnered some ground over the last number of years. Efforts to expand school choice in the state. And it's on the move once again, those plans through increasing the dollar value of opportunity scholarships and opening them up to more families. For the life of me, I can't get it because many on the left, many on the Democrat side of the aisle, they get to the bullhorns and they cry of proficiency gaps and all sorts of things that hold people back. Yet they are never necessarily in favor for opening the box of ideas to something additional on top of the role that the government has in funding public schools. Meaning they are against most efforts to expand school choice in our state and across the country. Those on the left, but at the same time, want to eliminate all of the gaps that are evident in our education system. It seems like they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth on this topic.
Well, they are, and I hate to say it, but those folks that are, and this isn't true of all Democrats. Some Democrats aren't this way, but of most of the Democrats in our state that follow the Raleigh mind of thinking or the Charlotte mind of thinking, which lines up with the national line of thinking, they do talk out of both sides of their mouths with this situation. I mean, I met a young man last night at a county commissioner meeting in Hope County. He and his twin brother, his name was Isaiah Fitzpatrick, he and his twin brother have formed an LLC. They have their own business. They're 14 years old, participated in the youth legislative assembly. They've both served as pages. They go to every county commissioner meeting with their mother, who's retired Army. And last night she had pulled me aside to thank me for what we're doing with opportunity scholarships, because she is retired military, but could not afford to send her kids to private school. The public school system where she was not what she wanted for her children. So this single African American mother of two took advantage of the opportunity scholarships and was really able to improve the life of her children from an early age by being able to send them somewhere they ordinarily wouldn't have been able to afford to go. And, this is, it's kind of like, this is what that opportunity scholarship is all about, providing choice to people who otherwise don't have a choice, providing choice to people who are stuck in a failing system sometimes. And that's not all of our public schools. We have a lot of great public schools in this state, but we have some public schools within certain public school districts that maybe the school that they would be attending is a D. Maybe they can't afford the transportation or don't have availability of transportation to go to that A school somewhere else, or maybe they can't transfer to that A or B school in the public school system where they are, and where they live it's a D, and their parent either sends them to that D school or they're able to take advantage of this opportunity scholarship.
And there are, as you said, several Democrats on that side of the political aisle that are in support of school choice. You just don't hear much from them. It's mostly those who are closely aligned with groups like the North Carolina Association of Educators, who you hear a ton from.
That's right. And we had a very vocal member who recently voted to go on the Board of Governors, Joel Ford, who's a Democrat from Mecklenburg County. Very much pro-business, very common sense guy, but he lost support of his party because of some of those common sense, business-minded, conservative decisions that he made, and his support for school choice. But he's been a very, very strong advocate for school choice. He's going to be a strong advocate for our universities as a member of the Board of Governors. We definitely miss him in the Senate as an advocate in the Democrat Party. Joel Ford was an outstanding gentleman to serve with, and he's going to do great things on the Board of Governors. But he was one of those outliers who was absolutely a fan of school choice.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to me that how this works when we talk about politics and the gamesmanship that is played. Republicans always seem to be bumping heads with one another, and it's like herding cats when you're trying to get all Republicans on the same page. Democrats, you're either with them or you're against them, and they'll drop you like a bad habit if you don't toe the line and push their agenda full throttle.
That's right.
Senator Danny Britt with us here this morning. Senator, before I let you go, let's talk about this body camera law that's being debated. I think we've kind of hit a snag. I mean, there needs to be a balance, no, between the public's right to information and a potential defendant's right to a fair trial. And that's where the 2016 law comes in, where you got to get a judge to sign off on the release of body camera footage. And, this is where we're at. And the heightened polarization of every incident that involves a law enforcement officer across the country doesn't necessarily, help the matter. When you look at the statistics, of course, it shows millions upon millions of responses to calls on a, annual basis. And there are outliers, but they seem to be magnified in this, 24/7 news cycle we're living in. Give us your thoughts on the law, whether or not we should look to be tweaking it. As we said at the top of our conversation, I know there's support from the governor to changing the law surrounding the availability of law enforcement video. Where do you stand on all this?
Look, here's the thing. I've reviewed the law fairly thoroughly once all this started coming about. I looked at it a few sessions back because folks had talked about it before. And, of course, I've done a lot of work on criminal justice reform, from expunction relief to this criminal justice reform bill I'm working on this time that creates a statewide database for use of force incidents, violent use of force incidents, that tries to ensure that our gaining law enforcement agencies know if a law enforcement officer had issues somewhere else that he was coming from. So I'm all about let's make sure our officers are doing what's right. Let's make sure that the hiring agencies know what our officers are doing. And I'm all about transparency because, what's public would remain public in this legislation. What's private would remain private. As far as the body camera law goes, the wording of it is that a hearing must occur as soon as practical, and the case should be given priority over all other matters. My reading of that would be, if this is a hearing in Superior Court, which it is, that as soon as practical would be the very next Superior Court session available in that district where the action and where the petition is filed, and it's heard before anything else is heard on that calendar. Most of our judicial districts have a Superior Court session at least 3 weeks out of the month. Some of them do only have one time a month. However, when looking at how this action proceeded in Elizabeth City, 2 days after the petition, a special session was called, and the Superior Court judge had the hearing, made the decision. Okay, a special session can be called at any time outside of when one is scheduled. So that is always a possibility. A petition can get filed. That Superior Court judge has the ability to have his trial court coordinator schedule a special session, even outside of the regularly scheduled sessions. So one, I would say that based on the timeline of how fast this worked, I'd say it worked just the way the statute intended. As soon as it was practical to get it done, and heard of all other matters, and within 2 days, they had a hearing. A judge made a ruling. That judge is a neutral party. He's not worried about politics of the decision, one would hope. He is making his decision based on a weighing of the competing interest of balancing the needs of the public to see this video and the needs of the district attorney's office if they're challenging it to keep this video where it is not viewed by anyone but the family. One thing that needs to be made clear is the family has had an opportunity to view this video. I believe the family does have a right to view the video. Outside of the family, unless there is a compelling interest or need that is found that outweighs the interest of the video not being seen, I think it would be hard for a judge to rule that the video needs to be released to the masses.
Well, and on that line, I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
And I certainly wouldn't want it to go to an independent citizen board that might release it for political reasons. Well, and of course, Attorney General Josh Stein recommends, oh yes, we need to change this law. We need to release this video. Well, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he was in the General Assembly in 2015 or 2016, whenever that legislation was voted on, and I'm fairly certain he voted in favor of it because it was a unanimous vote, Democrats and Republicans. The chair of the Democrat Party, she also voted to support the bill, though now says it needs some changes. There's no mention on the floor where she offered an amendment, where she debated against it. She voted for it. Same with Attorney General Stein. We've just got, folks that now politically it's in their interest to say that it's not good enough anymore.
And we can look all the way back up to Governor Cooper in his term as the Attorney General, 16 years prior to his role as the governor, as the AG, and then as a member of the General Assembly. When we look at again some of the things that are being discussed today, by the Democrat Party as far as the narrative goes, a lot of the laws and a lot of the policies that are in place today that have led to, I don't know, disproportionate members of certain demographics of people in jail, for instance. A lot of those laws and policies that were put on the books by these same folks that are now crying a river out of the same side of their mouth. It just doesn't make much sense to me.
That's exactly right, and several of them had years to file legislation, pass legislation when the Democrats were in control, but yet there's been more criminal justice reform in the last 5 or 6 years with folks like Representative Sarah Stevens in the House, Representative Zoka, Representative Hardister in the House, myself, as well as Senator Michael Lee and Senator Warren Daniel, Tommy Tucker whenever he was here, some bipartisan support from Senator McKissick from Durham, and then also a continued effort from some of the same people. And the majority of that criminal justice reform effort has came from folks from the Republican Party.
And including a proposal that you're working on, again, calling for the creation of 2 new databases of law enforcement officers who have been disciplined for misconduct. Again, trying to bring some accountability, to an area where you see, it may be needed. And this is, the efforts that you're making, rather than just jumping in front of a camera and stirring up the crowd and, pouring fuel on the fire that is already heightened as far as the tension goes between certain portions of our society and law enforcement. That's one way, an approach you can take it, or you can go about the business and do the work that needs to be done and not get a lot of the spotlight thrown your way.
That's exactly right. Look, I didn't do a press conference when I filed my criminal justice reform bill. I didn't do a press conference whenever we passed the latest expulsion bill we passed out. I don't even think I went to the press conference for the Second Chance Act when we were running that through the General Assembly last session. To myself and several others up here, it's more about getting the business of the people done, and not so much about getting in front of a TV camera or a radio microphone.
Senator Danny Britt with us here this morning. Senator, thanks so much. Great update here this morning. I'm glad that you're able to bring Raleigh to Wilmington here today with us, and I hope you'll come back soon.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Thank you.
That's Senator Danny Britt, Lieutenant Colonel in the North Carolina Army National Guard, representing the 13th District, Robeson County, lives in Lumberton. Again, you talked a lot there surrounding criminal justice reform, a package that he is working on in the North Carolina State Senate. Got his thoughts on the, of course, 2016 body camera law as far as law enforcement video goes. Who would have thunk that... Democrats, all of them in the General Assembly at the time, voted for the bill, including our Attorney General, Josh Stein, who now has a different take, given that we're in a different world, I guess, here in 2021. When we talk about the media, the public wanting to know as far as body camera footage goes, do they need to know right away? Well, ultimately, family, as Senator Britt says, has a right to see this video footage. The media, a citizen board, going to decide this. There are calls for those types of things to play out, where a group of citizens will ultimately decide whether or not body camera footage from law enforcement could be and should be released to the public. Well, if you allow the process to play out, of course, ultimately, as we saw up in Minneapolis, you'll see the entire footage at trial, the person potentially charged with a crime, innocent until proven guilty, right? In the court of law, not the court of public opinion. You release the footage, and all of a sudden, all public opinion prevents the defendant from maybe getting a fair shake in front of a jury of their peers. Isn't that the purpose of the judicial system? We can just throw it all out if you want and just head down to the town square and let the mob decide. there are efforts going on. Don't get much attention, of course, in the news media because it doesn't fit the narrative. Efforts by folks like Senator Danny Britt to bring some transparency, accountability to the system. We've hit the bottom of the hour. We thank Senator Britt for joining us here this morning. Great legislative update from the Republican senator out of Robeson County. We'll be back.
I'm K.O. Davis from K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree, and I want to be your tree man.
When your trees need cut, 2 letters to know. One is a K, the other is an O. K.O.
Tree man.
Proper trimming is the most important thing that you can do, so don't just hire anybody to do it. You need someone that knows what they're doing.
K.O.
Call the professionals at K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree and visit KOTrees.com.
We interrupt to bring you this horrible news. Experts say we'll see larger numbers and different breeds of mosquitoes to wreak havoc on your backyard, making this year one of the worst.
Anopheles and Culex variety of mosquito.
Yeah. Experts also say there is only one defense against this onslaught. Call the Bugman from Bugno Pest Control.
That's Mr. Bugno to you, pal.
Bugno Pest Control's mosquito-killing formula keeps your yard bug-free. Call Bugno Pest Control, 910-367-2501, or visit BugnoPestControl.com. Take back your yard.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint and the co-host of Wake Up Our Faith, every Saturday and Sunday right here on Wilmington's Big Talker. We invite you to join with our nonprofit movement by participating in the Portable Faith Community. This is a $10 a month tax-deductible contribution, and you get access to daily encouragement, resources, as well as our prayer community. You can go to wakeupmyfaith.com to get subscribed and learn more. That's wakeupmyfaith.com.
Parents, how old were you when you paid off your student loan? Are you still paying for it? Student debt can be crippling, and today it's even more important to keep debt in check. Help your student build a brighter financial future by encouraging them to attend Cape Fear Community College for the first 2 years. CFCC costs thousands less than four-year schools, and classes in our university transfer program are accepted at four-year schools across the state and beyond. Help your kids get a head start academically and financially at CFCC. Learn more at cfcc.edu.
O'Leary's Automotive Repair has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
It's time for the Coastal Home and Lifestyle Showcase, Saturday, May 8th in the Middleton Park Extension on Oak Island from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Meet local business people who specialize in maintaining your home, outdoor living, and supporting your healthy and active lifestyle. Admission to the Coastal Home and Lifestyle Showcase is free. Live music, food, free samples, and giveaways. And you can register for a $200 cash drawing. That's the Coastal Home and Lifestyle Showcase, sponsored by Southport Magazine, Saltair Heating and Cooling, the Stateport Pilot, and the Southport Oak Island Chamber of Commerce. CoastalHomeAndLifestyleShow.com.
Sitting in the city, don't know what the city is getting. The creme de la creme of the chess world in a show with everything but Yul Brynner.
Bringing me back to the Breakfast Club days, of course, back in the day, Old Bridge, New Jersey, hanging out, 21, 22 years old, and it was the Breakfast Club. The 80s were rocking, and those are some times, I got to tell you. Another lifetime. Lots of fun back then as well. We kiss but don't tell here on the Big Talker FM. You can find us at BigTalkerFM.com, through our social media platforms on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, our mobile app. You can find us in the Apple iStore for your iPhone and the Google Play Store for your Android. Our friend Brad Palumbo joins us once again from the Foundation for Economic Education, FEE.org. Brad, it's a pleasure, my friend. I hope you're doing well here this week.
Hey, good morning.
And good morning to you. And I caught a few of your latest pieces over at fee.org. And come on, you're going to tell me that people that are making under $400,000 a year are, in fact, going to be paying more in taxes if Joe Biden and his administration have their way? Couldn't be. He's telling us something different every day.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a really convenient myth and fiction that the Biden administration has pushed, that nobody's taxes will go up over $400,000, under $400,000 in income. But that's just not true for two main reasons. One is that they do this sleight of hand where they say nobody's taxes will go up who earns less than $400,000. But then they say they're actually talking about households, even though the way they say it makes it sound like they're talking about individuals. So what that means is that individuals who earn $200,000 could see their taxes increase. But much more importantly than that, actually, is the fact that they're saying they're only going to increase taxes on the wealthy and big business, but who taxes are nominally applied on and who actually bears the cost aren't the same thing. And for things like the corporate tax, that would be almost exclusively be borne in practice by workers through lower wages and consumers through higher prices. So even if they don't officially raise your taxes, they still basically are.
Well, with that said, efforts through the capital gains tax, the corporate tax, these are all things that ultimately will have you forking more money over as the everyday consumer, worker, and taxpayer out there.
Yeah, the capital gains tax in particular that Biden basically wants to double. That's the tax you pay when you realize the gain on a long-term investment. It's just honestly head-scratching what he's thinking about, because ostensibly, if you're not, a total Marxist communist, the point of taxation is not to punish people, it's to raise revenue for government programs that you think are important. But actually, if you increase tax rates beyond a certain point, you get less revenue, right? For example, if you had a 100% income tax, that would actually raise less revenue than a 50% income tax, because nobody would work if there was a 100% income tax. So it's not true that just the higher the tax rate, the more revenue. There's a point beyond which raising the rate actually becomes counterproductive from a revenue point of view. And the crazy thing about Biden's plan is he would raise the top capital gains tax rate to 43.8%, but that's way above the revenue maximizing rate. Extremely nonpartisan and left-leaning sources even agree it's closer to 28% if you actually just wanted to raise the most revenue. So I don't understand what this logic is, other than just a Bernie Sanders-esque soak the rich anti-success mentality that's driving this hike from the administration.
When we talk about anti-success and devaluing, work ethic and hard work, throughout our country through gainful employment, isn't that kind of where we're at this point, given the massive extensions that have been put forth and the additional benefits for those unemployed? I don't know where you're at, but I know in the places that I've traveled across the country over the past several months, help wanted signs, job listings everywhere. Can't find enough people to fill up the jobs needed. Many small businesses limiting hours, shutting down certain days of the week because they don't have enough staff members to carry out the services that consumers and their patrons expect. And why is that? Well, because we've seen this ridiculous extension of the unemployment benefits. There are efforts that are being made, Brad, to make this a more permanent type of status in our country.
Yeah, these supercharged unemployment benefits were supposed to be a temporary COVID thing, but now we're a year out and they've been renewed and renewed and renewed. Honestly, this is the thing about government. Once it expands, it almost never recedes. Like Milton Friedman said, there's nothing so permanent as a temporary government program. And in this case, it's really leading to dysfunctional results. I mean, they have, for example, millions of open jobs right now and a labor shortage in many sectors, like in the restaurant industry in particular, at the same time that millions of people remain unemployed and on unemployment benefits. It does not make sense. it doesn't compute. The truth is, what's causing that is the fact that for millions of Americans right now, they can earn as much as they were earning working, staying home on government benefits. That is obviously counterproductive. It is obviously broken incentives. Economics 101 tells us this, but progressives who want to grow the welfare state and expand the government evidently don't care, or they've got their heads so far buried in the sand that they just can't even see that it's causing a problem.
Yeah, it's really a massive issue for so many small business owners out there. And again, for those small businesses, of course, that survived the government lockdowns, the ridiculous government lockdowns. It's amazing. This week, Brad, we celebrate National Small Business Week. And it's hard for me to believe, as we pointed out, and as we all know, 14, 15 months, whatever, into this whole thing, that, the same government, along with, many of the politicians will sit there this week and tout the importance of small business. But, out of the same breath, over the past year, they've basically labeled these same small businesses and their employees as non-essential. So how can they have it both ways here?
Yeah, look, my take at the end of 2020 was that there was no bigger loser, not through their own fault, but through other people basically screwing them over, than small businesses in America. I mean, we had a year where they were locked down and punished. We had a year where they were rioted and looted with impunity. And then the so-called stimulus programs that the federal government said that they would pass to help were pretty ineffective and rife with fraud. And whatever help they did do, well, guess what? Now you're getting big business tax hikes to offset that big expenditure. So it really was all counterproductive. There's no one who's had it worse, or at least not many people have had it worse than small business owners and entrepreneurs in this country over the last year. And it's just a shame, because that's supposed to be what America's all about. That's supposed to be what we care about, what we want to promote and protect. And instead, increasingly, our government enshrines the interests of the well-off and well-connected, the big corporations. I mean, Amazon, for example, is lobbying for a $15 minimum wage because they know it will bankrupt small businesses, but they can afford it. And so in the long run, they'll actually make more profit, even if it means taking a short-term hit. So I guess all of this is just to say that as the government grows bigger and bigger and colludes with big business, the prospects of small businesses in this country get worse and worse and worse, and it's a really sad thing.
Ultimately, when we start to connect all of these dots, as far as the discussion we're having this morning, isn't it just, as I kind of pointed out earlier, just an effort really to create another class of dependency on government in our society, basically middle, lower income earners, to get them on the government dole, and then they'll have free reign, as they're trying to push on us right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you promise everybody that they can have everything they want for free with no downsides, I think it's easy to win elections. But it's not easy to actually implement, because it requires fantasy tale thinking and pie-in-the-sky economics. So that's the big problem with the Biden administration, is the things they're doing may politically work for them quite well, but that's because most people don't follow the details. They don't read the fine print. They aren't familiar with advanced economics, right? But when you actually look at this stuff from a serious policy scrutiny point of view, it really doesn't bode well for the future, and much of it is going to come back to bite us. But I don't think Joe Biden cares. I think he's going to be a one-term president, and he knows it, and he wants to go down with a big legacy that he can be remembered as a transformative president, and the long-term consequences of his policies are not his problem, I guess.
Brad Palumbo, Foundation for Economic Education. You can find his work at fee.org, FEE.org. Does great stuff. And in fact, Brad, alongside some of your colleagues over there at FEE, and I have a few other resources that I go to on a daily basis, and I really just try and tune out the rest, because I feel confident that you, among others, are giving it to me straight and providing us details backed with research and fact that lays it out there a bit differently, other than the round tables of 22 people per hour, day after day, giving us the same type of rhetoric and talking points that they must get emailed from their executive producers before they take the stage and you'll look all good on the TV cameras. It's amazing where if you just search a little bit through this thing called the intraweb, that in fact you can find great details that lay many of these things out in such a manner that you just don't hear on a daily basis. And for that, I thank you, my friend.
I appreciate it, and thanks again for having me on.
Lastly, I do want to hit some other, again, and we hate to be negative Nancy's out here, but I've noticed it. You've noticed it. Everyone who purchases food on a daily basis notices it. Small business owners, say in the construction industry, notice it. Those who work in transportation notice these types of things, and we're talking about the rise on the cost of goods and the ability to live your life where you can put food on the table and maybe go enjoy a movie every once in a while. I caught an article at the Wall Street Journal, in fact, on Monday, the frenzied climb in lumber prices, and it's the home buyers, the renters, the do-it-yourselfers that are footing the bill. Just highlighting this ridiculous uptick in the cost of doing business, and that's across the board, not only in construction, and as you point out in our article at FEE, that inflation has hit us, and it's hit us first within the housing market and at the grocery store. Is this just the beginning of the rise in the cost of everything and anything we consume across this country?
Yeah, I think it is just the beginning. It's difficult to make exact predictions about inflation, and official statistics drastically underestimate inflation. But just to give you one example of how this is already manifesting itself, inflation in lumber prices has meant that the average price of a typical new single-family home has gone up by nearly $36,000. And then food and grocery prices that Americans are seeing at the store every week are skyrocketing. They were up 4% in 2020. Meat prices were up 5.5% last year, and fruit prices were up 11.3%. These things sound small, I guess, if you just read them as a number, but you have to think about it as a bigger chunk of your paycheck every week being eaten away. And that's one thing that people don't always understand is the government cannot create wealth. So when they're either taxing you to pay for any new spending, or they're running up debt or printing money. Either way, whether it's inflation or it's economic drag and crowding out, you are being taxed. It's just indirect. There's no such thing as a free lunch, and the inflation that we're starting to see in some key sectors is just one of many ways in which these big government programs have real costs that are going to hit the American people.
Yeah, some way, shape, or form, it seems as if though they tout the line that the rich are going to pay their fair share or more, it's often the wealthy that are able to hunker down and weather these types of storms when the cost of living goes up or their housing prices go up. But ultimately, it's the everyday working man, middle class, lower income earner that is paying up and hit the hardest when we talk about government stretching its arms further than ever before.
Absolutely.
It's just it's baffling to me that many folks just don't connect these types of things when we talk about well, it sounds good. Well, look, we're going to invest in families and jobs. The government's going to do that, and we're going to make the rich pay their fair share. They do a pretty good job in dividing us, don't they?
Yeah, they're pretty good at that. If politicians aren't good at many things, but there you go. There's one thing that I think they are above average at for once.
Brad, thanks again.
Thanks again.
That's Brad Palumbo with us here this morning. Foundation for Economic Education, FEE.org. We enjoy his commentary and his work through the various publications. You can find him mainly at FEE.org. Again, contributes to our show twice a month here on the Big Talker FM. Great to have him as a friend of our program. And I point you to a couple of articles we touched on here this morning over at FEE in regards to efforts to increase the capital gains tax. Of course, with millions of job openings across the country, we've got the extension of unemployment benefits continuing. For what reason, we're not really sure, along with the inflation and the costs of business owners to get their job done. I mean, imagine having to be a developer, a builder, a contractor. You have everything lined up through a deal with a home buyer. You're building their home, and then ridiculous prices go up and skyrocket, and then you got to come back to these people and tell them, well, the cost of your home is going to go up by about $30,000 because we can't get the lumber we need on time and in a efficient manner. And this is a direct result, of course, of the government considering you, me, everyday Americans as non-essential for the better part of the past year. It's eye-opening and stomach-churning. We'll wrap up our program after this.
Just like the white-winged dove sings a song, sounds like she's singing. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Parents, how old were you when you paid off your student loan? Are you still paying for it? Student debt can be crippling, and today it's even more important to keep debt in check. Help your student build a brighter financial future by encouraging them to attend Cape Fear Community College for the first 2 years. CFCC costs thousands less than four-year schools, and classes in our university transfer program are accepted at four-year schools across the state and beyond. Help your kids get a head start academically and financially at CFCC. Learn more at cfcc.edu.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Mike check, Mike check. It's the Losowski here, Deputy Director of the Consumer Choice Center. You'll hear me every Friday at 9:30 on the Mornings with Joe Catenacci show, giving you the latest in consumer news, analysis, and political topics to make sure you get your consumer fix. Then hear me and my radio partner in crime, David Clement, on the Consumer Choice Radio Show, Saturdays at 10. Only here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
I'm State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better state. We are one of the fastest growing and most reviewed insurance agencies in Wilmington. That's because our customers love the personalized attention that we give to you. Let us help you get to a better state by visiting our website at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Here, Tom Goolsby on the Joe Catenacci Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Hey everybody, it's time for today's STEM tip. Want to know how to make your selfies even better? Okay, let's use science. The best time for photos is golden hour. That's the moment right before the sun sets, when the atmosphere scatters blue and violet wavelengths, making perfect, soft, and golden selfie light to show off that beautiful face of yours. Click. Check out Chic and STEM for more inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
Closing out the program here this morning. Great to have you aboard. Again, we appreciate the phone calls, texts, email messages. They've been coming for the better part of the last 48 hours. And just want to reassure you that the components to our radio transmitter are en route. And the hope is that everything is reinstalled and repaired by lunchtime today. Haven't heard any differently, so we hope we're on time to get our 106.7 FM signal up and running once again across southeastern North Carolina. Small independently owned operation here, so we have diagnosed the issue. The replacement pieces have been ordered, and now we're just awaiting their arrival before we can get back over to the transmitter and get things up and running once again. So again, we are happy to take your calls, emails, text messages, and concerns. Just know that we are very well aware of the situation and working diligently to get things back into working condition. In the meantime, of course, you can tune in through various ways, whether it be through your phone, our mobile app available in the Apple iStore for your iPhone, the Google Play Store for your Android. Search Big Talker 106.7 FM. If you're near the computer, you can find us by subscribing to our YouTube channel on Facebook. Video portion of the program available there each and every day, or on our website at bigtalkerfm.com. That's bigtalkerfm.com. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be up and running once again through the 106.7 FM signal here for the morning program. Good to hear from the Emmy award-winning governor of the state of New York yesterday, the man who decided to publish a book in the middle of a health pandemic on lessons surrounding leadership characteristics and qualities while navigating a pandemic. Came out with a book and won an Emmy Award for his use of the television medium during the pandemic. A guy that, by some out in the media circles and those on the left, was in fact at one point, as Sleepy Joe, Grandpa Joe, was kind of hanging in the woods throughout his basement. They were touting the Emmy award-winning governor as the leader of the Democrat Party nationally. Only to find out that stories continue to circulate that, his staff himself had a little issue going on up in New York in putting COVID-positive patients back into nursing homes and long-term care facilities, of course, with the understanding that the virus impacted those demographics most, and maybe led to the death of hundreds, if not thousands, of people because of these ridiculous policies. Yesterday, he was back in front of the camera because he certainly does love the camera. Maybe you go home and kiss your grandmother and wind up killing your grandmother. And speaking of people who do not take the COVID vaccine, listen to that. Maybe you go home and kiss your grandmother and wind up killing your grandmother. Whew. That's from the Emmy award-winning governor in the state of New York. Guy probably right now should be charged with crimes and on his way to a penitentiary. Yet somehow, some way, he is still in front of a news camera, and somehow, some way, people still have a warm and fuzzy feeling when the man speaks. It is good to be a Democrat. Stick with us, again, at bigtalkerfm.com, through our Facebook and YouTube channels, our mobile app available at Big Talker 106.7 FM and the Apple iStore for your iPhone, the Google Play Store for your Android. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Keeping Southport informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Family and friends of people believed to be on the train gathered outside. Oscar Lopez was searching for his friend Adriana Salas. 6 months pregnant, she was riding the subway home from work when her phone stopped answering around the time of the accident.
Much of the South running the risk of more severe weather today after tornadoes hit parts of the region on Sunday night and yesterday, causing heavy damage.
It's involving potential for tornadoes, but the most significant potential today is actually damaging wind gusts and large hail. But then in addition, there is also a heavy rain threat across the region.
The National Weather Service's Mike Edmonston. The worst of today's weather could be experienced in parts of Louisiana, Arkansas and Alabama, Georgia and Tennessee. Pfizer's COVID vaccine may soon win approval to be administered to children ages 12 to 15. The FDA may grant authorization for that by the end of the week or perhaps next week. While visiting a newly reopened Virginia elementary school the other day, the students gave President Biden and the First Lady an unvarnished assessment of virtual learning. The words of one boy, "It was terrible." Another young scholar commenting that if we were really tired, we could take a little nap. On Wall Street this morning, stocks deep in the red. Right now, the Dow down 235 points, the Nasdaq off 278, and the S&P 44 points lower. More on these stories at townhall.com.
I have two dogs, Sam and Bailey. Both are golden retrievers. Poor Sam, he was a mess. Always itching. His paws were soaking wet all day from just constant licking. He had bald spots on his back. I just don't like putting shots and steroids into your dog all the time.
DINOVITE.com.